it comes down to the level 80 versus the level 90. It's like there's gonna almost be these whole new tiers of these experiences that you have. Like, hey, yeah, 1 to 49, you feeling powerful. 50 to 80, you not so much. 81, and that's where you start feeling that power again.
There's a tier 3 sub I missed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Sign, Zenith, Luck, Crown, Kodum. Oh my gosh, there's so many Prime subs.
To the
Captain,
moon.
Athena, High Police, Crimson hit with the follow. High Police, thank you guys so much for the Prime subs, guys. You guys just triggered a hype train. Thank you so
nice.
much. I missed the tier 3. Thank you guys. I really do appreciate it. I feel like I get more time to hang out with you guys on streams where I'm not back and forth between trying to streams have a lot of downtime baked in because I get to decide between dungeons to stop pulling and kind of catch up. So this is a little bit, but I really do appreciate it, guys. As I've gone full time, hopefully you guys can see the increase in our amount of content this week, obviously being a crazy week. So I was in 60 videos in the month of January. I don't know what February will shape up to be. Man. I've got some posts coming up this next week because this week I missed a couple days, not because I was in the middle of like editing and adjusting my sleep schedule, but yeah, I'm hoping to be at least in that 40 to 60 videos per month. And then Brian's also got his personal channel going, and he put up the Delibrum guide, which was delightful. I watched it, I enjoyed it. So like lots of content coming y'all's way, and so hopefully that kind of helps show you guys where the support goes. Hopefully that all makes sense. And then we're working on bringing on some sponsors onto the channel. And the reason I want sponsors is like there's already things I tell you guys about brands I like. And so I would like it to be brands we already like, or brands that align with things that we already like in our lives. So, like I drink Monster because I can buy it at the grocery store in 10 packs, but like I like the flavored Red Bulls. So if they want to send me some peach ones, I'm all down for that. Hear that, Red Bull? Things like that as an example. And what the reason for that is you guys see those sponsors, just know that like, of course I am full-time and like, that means that paying my mortgage now has to come out of this, but also B, like, I would love to give away a Lunar Whale mount. I would love to give away the 6.0.
To the moon.
So that's where that all goes, to the moon. So hopefully that all makes sense as you guys see more and more of that. The shirt said Feast and Fury, Beast and Fury, Beastmaster confirmed. Look forward.
Beastmaster confirmed.
You're so ready for the live letter. You fetch snacks and an energy provisions secured. Oh, Hype Train just hit 100%. Thank you guys. At the end of Legion in a 40-man raid with an insane stacking and debuffs, you found a oh my gosh!
These notifications are popping off. I don't know what's happening.
Oh, are they? I think we're coming up on time here. Okay, cool. Let me move back to the other layout here.
Let's get some sound. What time is it? Yeah, we still got 30 minutes, so this could be another little sound check.
Okay, cool. Just another sound check.
Maybe.
Cool. I've got the live translator up so I can see it when I get there.
Excellent.
At the end of BFA.
Red Bull, you've missed a lot. Now, if you want to go watch the archived live stream of the whole announcements with Comic Storian, that's up on YouTube right now. We'll summarize it as we can and hopefully answer all the questions. But we're about to go into the live letter covering patch 5.5. So
I think the fact that I would have bought a FanFest ticket, just like I did last time, makes the whale a really easy justification. I don't typically buy things off things like MOG stores or anything like that. I typically don't engage with that system in the game, mostly because for me, I feel like once I break that threshold, what stops me from wanting to buy everything on it? So it's more of just a budgetary discipline thing than anything else. Because once I kind of break that seal, I don't know how to stop. But I think for the whale, I can justify that as this is my FanFest. So once they release the price on that, then I can go back and see, well, what did FanFest cost us before? What did I have really budgeted? And that tells me, like, can I buy a whale? Can I buy minions? And if so, if it's really affordable, gosh, if it's like a $20 amount, it's like, can I buy more than one whale? And let's give away a whale on stream during FanFest. Like, let's do this awesome. Zaron, thank you so much for the Prime sub. You guys are awesome. With all these Prime subs, so many first months. The number of Pokemon on the screen is insane. We really appreciate it. I know you guys only get to choose one subscriber or one channel to give your Prime sub to each and every month. Thank you for flying with work to game. This is a quote from a WoW dev that you believe is the math guy. Final Fantasy XIV is doing a stat squish. I need to start a group chat someday with the one other person who deals with this exact problem.
The Super Cold Fusion says, an awesome name, by the way, Super Cold, says, hey guys, I want to let you know that your content's on point and very helpful, particularly the controller guides. I changed it from mouse and keyboard. Very happy that we can help out in some way. And if you haven't seen Super Cold Fusion, I've moved actually the controller guides over to Ginger Prime. So if anybody's missing a controller guide, note that that's actually where they're being published. And so if you go check out Ginger Prime, that would be awesome, but no pressure to do so. But also check out Chris's channel, Gaming Kinda. He's been posting and crushing it over there as well. So anyway, we thank you all so much for your support. We couldn't do this without you. Anyway, go ahead.
The controller guides for next generation for all 6.0 will be on Ginger Prime. The ultimate controller guide, getting you started on controller, will still live on Work to Game.
Yep.
And that's because with the YouTube algorithm where it's at right now, you want one channel to be as much one thing as possible. So we want Work to Game to be something that appeals to what we think is ideally most, if not all, Final Fantasy players. And then let Ginger Prime be the things that, you know, inherently kind of fracture the community, where like not every player cares about Black Mage, not every player cares about Paladin. And so that stuff can go live on a channel that can afford to have a little more variety. So if you're ever wondering where something is, just ask. One of the reasons we've been spinning up so many channels is that we want to be respectful of when people hit the sub button and when they hit that bell. And so now you can kind of tune into just parts of Brian and I, and you don't have to listen to all the crap we have to say.
Yeah, exactly.
For 300 bits, artist with the Prime sub. So hopefully that really helps. If you want to subscribe to all of them, then you're exactly where you were back when it worked a game. If any of you remember back when we used to publish 4 to 5 times a day, you're exactly where you were.
Yeah.
Ideally broken that up so that if you only want to tune into parts of the content we put out, you can. ZW Logan with the Prime sub, thank you. Anyone in chat have links to the WoW devs that are being commented on? Yes, please post away. You guys can post links. The only thing I'll tell you about links is I will never open links on stream, and that's just once again, just like the Mog Station thing. Once I start getting the habit of clicking links, I'll just start clicking links, and I've unfortunately been aware of times on the platform when that doesn't end well.
I gotta. Oh, go ahead.
Games and Graps with 1,000 bits. Thank you.
Wow,
What's up, Brian?
that's insane. All right, so Super Cold Fusion asks, what are your thoughts on Sage and Scholar being barrier healers and Astrologian being reworked to be a pure healer like White Mage? And I am super nervous about this aspect, but I think ultimately, if done right, this could actually be really strong for the healers overall. Like, it just kind of felt like they were all doing something that they needed to do. We got the word homogenized comes up a lot, and it's true. We got a lot of crap for saying it, and I hate being a prophet in that way. Like, hey, this is, because like I'm not trying to shoot on anybody's hype, but maybe what this will end up bringing is that synergy of a pure healer and a barrier healer coming back into kind of that meta where it's like if you got one of each. Then that's going to be ultimately really good to see. Now, when we talk about Astrologian, the changes they made felt fine, but when you look at and compare it to how White Mage felt, like White Mage was just, it is just too good. I'm not playing any other healer, and it's not because I don't like, and I didn't like Scholar. It's not because I didn't like Astrologian. I hope that this is a really good opportunity because, yes, we're getting Sage. Yes, it's a healer role, but what this means, just like we saw with Dancer, it gives them the ability to look at all of the healers and kind of fit it in. And so they're going with that concept of pure healer and barrier healer. And it's like, just lean into that. Like, make Scholar and make Sage like awesome barrier style healers. Maybe some kind of variety there. Same thing with White Mage and Astrologian. Let's do it. Let's go. I'm excited. I've been enjoying healing. Chris has been enjoying tanking. I don't know what this other second job is, but right now I'm thrilled because this healer looks incredible.
So didn't they have the same reaction like 2 years ago when they were pruning class spells? Yes, pruning is hard, and then they already said that we're getting more abilities on our jobs next time, so like that's gonna come with a pruning. Phil gifting us subs. You gifted 10 subs. Diamond, Mana, Troa, Ostera, Pickle, Big, Simple, J-Stash, Fallen, and Blaze. Hopefully you guys are enjoying running around as Pokemon down below. That was a big gift. Thank you so much. And then Shinted with the Prime sub. My goodness, you guys are just going nuts here. All these people make my avatar random. I can do that. I'm having trouble keeping up.
And then,
Face Forio with the Prime sub, and then make my avatar random again. Well, that was short-lived. And then huge sub gifts. Thank you guys. This is awesome. Zenrai with 100 bits. Guys, Hoku with the Prime sub. This is awesome. What do we think about Zodiark and Heidelin? I'm excited to resolve it. I'm excited to see what it means. Beyond that, like, I don't want to spoil too much, but like finally, I think is my general response.
Finally,
like if I had one word response, finally.
Yeah, I'm excited that from a story narrative perspective, we're finally getting that end. And as far as what 6.1 or whatever happens after that, I honestly hope that we see like a time skip happen in the game where it's like, all right, here's that's that story, and then it's like, okay, cool, we're taking part in, you know, whatever happens and befalls after 6.0. That has me more excited than anything else to see how they also bridge that gap to the next expansion, because typically the next expansion setup is 2 patches, right? You know,
my favorite cover art too.
Oh, the art is like they're.
Oh, I'm really excited about it, and I think just because of the emotional significance of it, I don't know that art-wise it's any more astounding than anything else they put out. They put out such astounding art, and we are covering the live letter here. That's what we're hanging out for. We're just waiting. We got 22 minutes to kind of slowly catch up with stat. Crystal Lee, thank you so much for the Prime sub. One more for luck. Oh my gosh, we have 2 more for luck. Did you do your curls, Brian?
I will. I'll knock those out in here in a second. Let me replay the trailer, because John's saying, did you guys catch the trailer? The Warrior of Light Paladin skills have an elemental attack like the one from Elidibus in 5.3. So let me pull.
I will say, keep in mind that Ethis said if you haven't been watching Ethis's new like fireside chats, I know that's like a presidential thing. I don't know what he's calling them, but his little chats by the fire. He actually mentions that, I think in one of those is where I heard it, that trailers are not canon.
Right.
So just like, they're hype. That's all they are. They're just hype. But yes, very cool. We should go back and watch it.
I'm going to go ahead and replay the trailer. Do you want to watch it with me in that regards? Like, we count it down? Just so that way everybody who's watching on Twitch and everybody who's watching on YouTube is watching.
GameStop? Game. Did they
I actually have it. I have it actually on the Twitter. So I have the Twitter video.
Oh, there it is. Endwalker teaser trailer. It's live on the YouTubes.
Yeah.
3 minutes and 6 seconds. I'm ready when you are.
3, 2, 1, play. Creative Business Unit 3.
From the creators of Final Fantasy XIV.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh crap! I'm in the wrong one. I'm in the wrong layout.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I can see it.
Oh, that music is on point.
On the moon.
That is awesome.
Q Silver, thanks for the Prime sub.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm caught up on chat.
Oh wow. Actually caught up on chat. That's a task for today.
The final days were upon us. The fabric of the star had begun to fray, its lands rent by tooth and claw.
That red mage. Good looking glam.
Oh yeah.
Good looking glam. Trailers really wish this game was more violent. I know they're trying to protect their rating, so I don't see how that paladin thing there so far. That just looked like a heaven on high shield.
Yeah.
Are you all right?
But the fact that it didn't stay like that does kind of imply an elementalness.
Myself, you know. And I've had enough of this rabble. Come on.
That's so sick. As someone who just finished Shadowbringers, you have no idea what's going on. Well, you're in for a treat, Red Man.
You think it's Ariane talking? We don't get enough voice acting for me to recognize voices the way everybody else does. I just haven't seen the cutscenes enough times.
Past the far edge of fate.
Sounds like Orion.
Blades dark.
Yeah, that's Orion.
Cool.
The coming of the end.
Maybe like chat's also maybe saying Emmett. I don't know. I guess they could reuse his, voice actor.
They say it's Emmett's voice. And then Fandaniel, I think, talks there at one portion.
I'll read this into parts of that one.
Self, you know.
Fall 2021. Tap back over here. What's that? Okay. It could be Emma's voice. I don't know.
It could be from what he said that these are lines he's given before. If that's the case.
Past the far edge of fate.
You're asking if Xeno had a scythe.
Was there a scythe by Xenia? I'm not seeing a scythe.
Ring blades dark.
This will be end, right?
The coming of the end.
The scythe, does Xenos walk out?
No, he doesn't. He just
He's sitting the whole time, right?
yeah.
I don't see a weapon.
Yeah, I didn't see a weapon
I
either.
think that's the chair. I
Yeah.
think that's the throne.
Yeah, they look more like the throne. Towards his left.
I would bet September, but, I wouldn't take off work.
Yeah, don't schedule work off now.
Yeah. Well, May is so during the May Fan Fest is when we should get the announcement of the timing.
Yeah, we should get the release date. So, okay, I guess if you're saying that this is Xenos sitting on a throne, outlooking the world. Let's see here.
Okay, so that's the same chair. Oh, so right there, that could be a hammer.
Or a scythe or something's there, yeah. He's got some kind of weapon that's by that throne. Because obviously, like, it's not... He's sitting here, that's sitting there. Do we get a better angle on that? We don't get it here. Which he's, like, leaning. So you would expect something over here to be...
That's his shoulder there.
Mm.
It could be a hammer. It could be a scythe as well. It would come down. It's not a very big scythe if it's a scythe, but that's from somebody who plays Warhammer 40K. So like, we get big scythes. And yes, had COVID not happened, we would have been seeing this trailer back in November, and we would be looking at a summer release. And we know, don't read too far into this trailer. So, like, this is just us hyping to hype. Because we've got 15 minutes till the live letter, so, like, we might as well. So that's what we're doing here. Thank you guys for all the follows. A whole bunch of people just hit follow. After Q Silver hit the Prime sub, we got a whole bunch of follows.
Drop some mass bombs on that one.
Let's drop some mass bombs.
The on that it definitely did sound like Emmett Salk when listening back to it. So thank you, chat, on that. So it's like, but I don't think those are. That didn't sound like anything like that I would consider a new line from him. They're talking about the the final days, star fraying, things like that. That's all things he's talked about before. Doing good. It's how you doing today?
Dimmador with the Prime sub. You're now running around among those Pokemon. There could be multiple voices. Multiple male voices. Make my avatar random. I can do that. And keep in mind that those of you with the that have subscribed to Prime sub or otherwise, is if you're running around as Pokemon, the overlay will let you change it. Even from mobile, it should work. You think it's just lines clipped straight up from Amaro, just reused.
That's what I'm hearing. It's like, okay, interesting.
Interesting. It would be a pretty small hammer. A scythe seems more likely, but that doesn't mean... It doesn't mean that that's not unique to Xenos. Like,
Right.
a scythe is a very, like, if these are non-literal things, it is very, like, metaphorical. Is like it's a weapon of reaping, right? And so it's a weapon of kind of going out and it's used in harvesting. It's used in, I mean, it's a very sweeping, it's a change. So like, if it's just a metaphorical weapon, if we're going to spin up a weapon unique to a character that wears plot armor and can't die until we tell them to, it's a very interesting weapon choice. Shikes, thank you so much for the Prime sub. It just, trailers are hype, and so it's meant to be a broad view, and so you can see a boss in a context that they would never actually be in, may have never actually happened. You can, it's almost like they're brought about because of the echo. Like they're not real, but they're not real. Like it's still in this place. But like it doesn't mean that we're getting the whole story. We're kind of getting a story that's told, not the actual truth. Think of like how the final 4 Eden fights are. Like we're kind of in a dream state where like it's not necessarily the real thing. Zinrat, thank you so much. Sora, thank you so much for the Prime subs. You guys are awesome. There's so many of those. I don't know what our record number of subscribers in a day is prior to today. I guarantee it's today now. I think the record in a day was like 48. I think we've had more than that just in this gap.
Yeah.
Vegeta with the Prime sub, thank you so much. I'll probably wake up tomorrow overwhelmed and not know how to tell you guys thank you when I see the stream summary. Just keep going for now and act like it didn't happen, because that's how I deal with things. I think that I've seen a tank class that can get a scythe in a game. So tanks with scythes are a funny thing. Just like speaking from like what a class is doing as a story. Because a scythe is not a very defensive weapon. You've just got that thin little shaft and then a large sweeping blade. So like a scythe defensively in games is typically keeps you defensive by keeping the ground around you clear. So like charging into things, it's typically this big sweeping motion. So it's a very AoE weapon. So like, I don't know how that would work. Tarko with it. Moship 5 bits. Thank you so much.
What got you guys most excited? Was it the cross data center travel? That's actually really huge. I think that's going to be massive for the community. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I think the cross data center is the thing that I think will be the unmentioned hero of all this. It'll be the thing that doesn't get listed on people's top 5. Like here's what I'm hyped about, but will make one of the largest quality of life differences. When something like Hunts or Blue Mage or something like that is having trouble finding a group, it's features like this that are the unspoken heroes, where once you get used to it, once you're new to the game and you're like, yeah, of course, like it'll just be this thing that's there. But it's something that really makes a massive difference in the way we engage with this game. Final Fantasy XI Dark Knight has a scythe, really?
Yeah, but it wasn't a tank.
Wasn't a tank. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a defensive weapon. And like I play Warhammer 40k and there are tanky characters that do it. The way they are tanky with their scythe is usually something unique about their armor. So like one of my characters on the army I play right now that's a really big deal. He has a special type of armor that literally restricts the amount he can move, even compared to other characters of his type. So he actually moves less per turn because of how defensive his armor is. So he's tanky just by nature. So the weapon doesn't have any requirements there, right? Like how Paladin's very sword and board. So you got your shield. Like what's in his hands doesn't make him tanky, and so his hands are purely offensive. So that's what I picture with a scythe. But I mean, they can do whatever they want. It's their game.
What do you think the second job's going to be? Because he said we're getting 2, which is honestly really exciting. But what do you think?
I would prefer something really beefy. Berserker, Templar, something like that. I would prefer something really large. When I think of the melees in this game, I think of monk, ninja, the lightness of a samurai in robes. I think of melee jobs as dragoons always laying on the floor, as like not able to take a hit, and therefore like they're in the action, but they're always trying to like be dodgy around not getting hit. And I would love to have somebody that feels a little more like they're willing to sit in on the action personally.
How many people think in Geomancer? Can we get like if you think of Geomancer, can you drop like a thumbs up emote in chat or something like that? And if you're thinking, see here, what was the other Necromancer? Can we get like a skull and crossbones or something like that? Like whatever, or the best or closest remaining, out of those two. Like we could do our own little battle royale for like jobs and thoughts and things like that. Got some bats. We got some necros dropping out.
I have not picked up my new Death Guard Codex. I've read the changes, but I didn't buy it because it would just make me bitter that I can't play games right now due to COVID.
Yeah.
So I intentionally didn't go buy my updated rule book for 40K, and I'll buy it like 1 to 2 weeks out from when I can actually play games.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to rub in the fact that I'm at home with hobby time. I'm currently building 50 motorcycles for Chaos. Not because they're good, but because I have them.
And Athena 14 says, "Where is Yustola and Gratia? And more importantly, what are they wearing?" We'll have to wait and see on that, guys. I'm sure we'll see some more of them probably in the expanded trailer. Whatever happens with 5.5.
Do you mean this Mortarion? Mortarion became a beast. So I'm doing for anybody interested in, I don't know if any of you guys do miniatures, but it sounds like at least a few of you do. I've been doing heavy bike conversions. So these are my Chaos bikes. So pulling a lot of bits from orcs, from various like Space Marines. My collection's pretty diverse of bits. So.
And YouTube chat, Akira says, "Are you guys going to do a job draft for 6.0?
I haven't finished all my jobs from this one.
I know.
Going full time is the only way I actually get to all those. I think more likely you and I would do a roll divvy up. So it seems like you're probably picking up healers and I'm picking up tanks.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we would divvy up the DPS maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
With neither of us being excited about picking up melee.
I know.
One of us takes range physical, and one takes range magical and minus blue.
Right.
And then with the melees, but like Brian ultimately ends up leveling them all up anyways because he does the controller guides. So I don't know. We haven't talked about it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where Chris is. He just finished his tanks, and so we're just letting him put in that experience. So you got your crafters and your gatherers, and he's making progress.
Crafters and gatherers are done. So if I switch over to the other layout here, game focus.
So
the handful still hanging out at the house here. I was actually really excited to get this all orange numbers. What's going on, Doc? Maybe once I get into melee, I do like them. Maybe that's what it is. But so far, that melee has just never been my thing in games. I don't know. It's not been my thing. So I'll do healers and tanks first because I think it gives me the best understanding of the content. I think knowing how much damage is going out and knowing where everything needs to be positioned, I best understand from the perspective of tank or healer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my plan.
We got a couple things. Super Cold Fusion says, "Brian and Chris, what tank do you think is OP at the moment?" But before you answer, Flygon Creel says, "Cecil was a Dark Knight who became a Paladin. Final Fantasy IV boys," which is very on theme because Shadowbringers we're themed out as a Dark Knight. And in Endwalker, we are themed out as a Paladin. So I love the callback to Final Fantasy IV throughout all of this. Chris, regarding the question, which tank is OP at the moment? What do you think?
I think when I go watch Party Finder Savage clears, I see a lack of warriors. The other 3 seem to all be viable. And so as a warrior main, it's not which one do I think is OP, it's that I feel like warrior needs more love.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just in the wrong streams, but it feels like I never see my job represented when I go watch Frosty stream and all of them.
I would say that for me, it's between Gunbreaker and Dark Knight. Those are the 2 that I ended up gravitating way more to this expansion. And that's mainly just how some of the things on Paladin I wish like auto upgraded. They didn't get into it during the battle system changes section. They just really primarily focused in on why a stat squished. But I was like, man, I want to see like level sync changes. I want to see like, action upgraded changes and things like that. So we'll have to wait and see what they end up delivering. But that's something that I'm pretty excited about to see what happens.
Is there a reason not to just delete the belts completely? They never delete anything completely. Even your old tomes, you have the chance to go to a vendor and turn them in. So I think it's just a short-term thing to say, hey, if you're attached to this item, it's still there. It has no use, but it's still there. That way people don't feel like they don't have to emotionally go through the journey of like desynthing them the day before the patch goes live. I think it's just a nod of appreciation to the fact that people did put work into acquiring these items. Even though they're being made useless, to not just delete them because they don't have to delete them.
Right.
So I think they don't have to, so they're not going to. There isn't a real reason not to just delete them as a person. But they're letting you come to grips with that instead of them being like, and we removed your items without asking.
Right.
That would feel very invasive. They said we unequipped it because the slot is gone, but it's okay. I didn't delete anything. You can delete it at your own pace.
Yeah, belts actually used to be a thing visually on your character in 1.0, and since 2.0 they just turned it into an item. And the thing that the only thing that I really get concerned about, and it's the right play, is let's just divide those stats up and get that inventory space back to the weapons and the rings, and that's what they're doing. Like I'm wondering ultimately like what's their long-term plan for the engine itself, because they're removing belts because we need more space for weapons and we need more space for rings.
I know, but the problem is, Brian, that they are the unsung heroes. They've been holding up our pants whether we could see them or not. So
correct.
We have a serious concern about what's happening with the pants in 6.0.
Yeah.
Turn belts into headgear. Yes. Wear them
belts around your head.
Whaleman style. You proc Savage on Warrior, but you main Gunbreaker. Gunbreaker has so many buttons. I don't know why Warrior just always seems to get crapped on in the meta. And maybe that's just my perspective, right? Everybody feels their job's getting the short end of the stick. They didn't say anything about 4K textures on PC, did they? They did say that we're getting a PS5 client on April 13th with 4K support. So I would assume that's for that same thing. Ooh, something's happening. Something's happening.
Yeah, we got. We'll try to answer your questions as it happens. So I wonder if they're tossing back to the trailer. Yeah,
This one.
They're going back to the trailer. We'll watch it again because why not? Because it's amazing.
Avatars fell off, but they're just not on this scene.
Let me turn off the avatars over here.
Adding avatars to scenes. Ryan's like, I got all these scenes just the way I want them. Now there's freaking avatars on all of them.
If you're over here on YouTube and you haven't followed on Twitch and you would like to help us support as we've been pushing for Twitch Partner, the pinned comment is for Twitch. You can see both Chris and I over on Twitch right now as well. So we'd love to have you there. Oh, that sound is incredible, Maurice. So yeah, we have a goal of trying to get to 10,000 followers on Twitch, an insane goal of 100,000 subs or followers here on YouTube. So if you've never hit that subscribe button over here on YouTube, we'd love for you to do so.
This one's in Japanese.
Yeah, I like it. It sounds good in Japanese.
It's called Elastic.
Yeah.
They could give us more suspenders. They could. With all the Final Fantasy IV callbacks, Crystal Palace, Lunar Lair are the main city. I think in May they'll reveal what the main city is. I don't know. What do you think, Brian? Did you play 4? I did not.
Oh, I played 4. 4 is the first Final Fantasy game I fell in love with. I did not like the original, and then I played 4, and I was like, "This is incredible." No, they're not going to live translate it on their end, but Reddit, the Reddit Discord, usually handles any kind of translations.
Turn you up a little as your energy level wanes.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I can turn you up.
I can go get some coffee or something.
I can turn you up. I got volume.
Well, welcome, Daniel. Thanks for being over here on the YouTubes as well. Like, we'd love to have you in both places, not gonna lie, but...
You guys need to see a tailor. Get those pants fitting correctly.
Yeah.
The live letter will not be translated? Okay. I'm not worried about it. Well, we're watching the unofficial, the Reddit one, so we'll kind of read it out as we go. Usually the slides are translated, so you get some kind of basic stuff.
We'll provide also any insight and context that you might need.
They read. So if you guys haven't watched live letter coverage with us before, this is how we do things. So here we go. I will turn sound down on it because we're not going to be able to understand them. So since we can understand Japanese, it just is one more thing to compete with Brian and I. Welcome. This is the beginning of the live letter. We'll be Yoshida and Foxquan. This is traditionally who present for these. Like I said, if anybody hasn't watched these before, because this is, I assume, brought in people who are just excited for 6.0 and want to stick around for 5.5 stuff. This is a couple hours long sometimes. It's depends on how long they want to go. I don't know how tired they are. This will be part 1, and so there will be a part 2 that will further elaborate on anything seen here. So this is a general overview of everything we will get between 5.5 and 6.0. So we're strapping in here.
Buckle up, everybody. Endwalker is on the way. This should hopefully help give lots of excitement and context to the events that are about to unfold in the world that we are in with the Shadowbringers, and hopefully we can have lots of fun. Another more shirt teases. So, a Reaper with a scythe is on his effing shirt, guys. For the love of goodness. All scythes all day. Chosen of blood, pointing forward.
Right.
Or is it? I don't know. Children or Bodums for me. I don't know. I can't read, so. Yeah, is he trolling hard or harder?
I had it right. I was in the right one. Okay. My chair just gets squeakier the older it gets. I'm trying to sit still. We had the announcement earlier that announced that the game that is going to happen in the future. What? Look,
we had about the expansion, yeah.
Game that's going to happen in the future. I don't know what that phrasing is. There will be 2 halves to this, which is pretty typical as well. The second half will be joined by their project manager. First half will be mostly the content and features of 5.5. Second half, they talk about things like new merch. They go, sometimes there's some Q&A. Sometimes they have a guest, like in this case, the project manager. Sometimes it's somebody that's helping them with the next collab, the next crossover event. So, and we also have a lot of content to share, considering we just had our major announcements earlier. Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Lots of updates, lots of information. That's what it looks like, Rel. And that's a Reaper pointing at the camera.
Let me switch over here so alert boxes are off to the one side. That way it doesn't cover up any text.
Yeah, these live letter ones can end up being several hours, Cassie. Now afterwards, I think we'll probably just be tired, and we'll head to bed from exhaustion, and then we'll try and get a summary video out to you guys, tomorrow morning at some point when we recover, and then probably some more content. There's lots of things to talk about. So I'm hopefully going to be able to do some streaming this weekend. We'll probably have to do it on YouTube because we're still pushing on Twitch, and my streaming schedule tends to be a little bit weird.
If we get a chance to post a stream schedule officially, it will have my consistent, reliable, and boring times and we'll say somewhere on it that a mythical and magical Brian may appear at any time with no warning.
That's how I function.
Because it is fleeting. So during the break, Yoshida had to do interviews with gaming media who's standing by somewhere else in the company.
Nice.
Expect those. So those should trickle out over, I assume, the next couple of days here. I don't know how long they'll embargo that, but him giving interviews on everything that was just done, that's really exciting. That's once again something that we lost by not having traditional FanFest. We lost a lot of the Q&A panels, a lot of the media access and things like that fill in a lot of the gaps where we say, hey, you said this one phrase, and I'd like you to say that a little differently, because I feel more confused than if you'd said nothing at all.
Right. He says that it was also different for him presenting to a non-live audience, and so he didn't obviously get the reaction, the excitement, and the cheers like you would expect due to obviously the pandemic. But ultimately, I think, he felt it was a little bit lacking because of that, missing that response from us in that regard. So hopefully when we were all able to get together, we can really cheer and applaud and be excited for everything that they're building.
He's of course self-conscious that he may have talked too much, but if anything, I'm like, no, you got to talk more. Tell me more about those farm things. What is this cross data center you're speaking of? So first of all, they are going to go over some of the stuff they just did here. They remind us that Endwalker is the 6.0 coming in fall of 2021.
Ooh, Death Unto Dawn.
But obviously, due to circumstances, they are going for fall, and that they had hoped that it wasn't going to end up being a winter 2021 release. So fall, if anything, is them being excited that they were able to delay it that little. And 5.5 will be our next patch with the title Death Unto Dawn.
And so Foxconn says, what a cool English title. Abso-freaking-lutely. And yes, April the 13th is the date, which is great.
They spoiled it by by a couple hours.
And if you guys are new to the game, note that patch 5, the 5 patch, is broken up into 2 parts. So part 1 is going to be this. Part 2 will be at some point down the road, which will conclude or basically lead us right into 6.0. And just to remind you guys, 6.0's story ends at the conclusion of the expansion, as opposed to like 6.3 or something like that.
I'm going to turn off avatars. I do want to say thank you guys to all of the subscribers and everything. That's one of the ways we kind of show you guys and how much support there really is. But they're showing text at the bottom of the screen, so I don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
I'm also off the in-game, but thank you to everybody that hung out during the event for making this feel a little bit like a community-driven FanFest. Part 2 will be end of May. End of May makes me wonder if that's so we have FanFest on May 15th, 16th. End of May will be part 2. So I expected actually part 2 in my mind to be part of FanFest, but that's very interesting.
Well, it's good they can actually talk about that somewhat as a part of FanFest. And then also chat's reminding me to remind you guys, the PS5 beta client actually launches on that day as well. So that's April the 13th. It's beta because in case I run into issues, it keeps them from some legal repercussions, but that you can play the game. And if you're on PS5, you don't have to buy the game. You don't have to buy a PS5 license or transfer it. They're just going to say, hey, please play. As long as you're subscribed, you can play.
I don't know where to put us. Okay. Someone asked Yoshida if he was able to get his PS5. He did manage to get one.
All right.
Only when they first announced PS5s, he said that he tried to pre-order and they were all sold out everywhere. So he did get a PS5. So he will be able to play on the PS5 version with everybody else. I assume he's played before then. I'll make my avatar random so that... and I'll hang out a little after this ends to kind of catch everybody up that comes in late, because we're not going to keep looping back. So I'll go back through and kind of blast through this. And do you need to download the beta or will it automatically? I don't know if the beta will be a separate client on PS5. They haven't addressed it.
Yeah, PlayStation doesn't do what Xbox does in that case, so you'll download a separate client for PS5.
Okay.
And no information about Xbox. They announced PS5 and they left it at that. And honestly, that really frustrates me. I was hoping that we'd finally get some form of news about Xbox, and it just they're kicking the can down the curb at all. And if it doesn't launch with this expansion, I what the hell? I don't know what's going on. So.
He said that he does understand that not everybody's been able to get a PS5 that wants one. He also had troubles getting it. And he was worried, and he's aware that people not being used to like the experience of how it plays on PS5, kind of what they're defining as proper. He said they do have a PS5 in Square Enix, but it's only for development purposes. And the key is locked on PS5 to prevent anyone from accessing it without proper permissions. Yoshida has encouraged players to try to keep trying and get scheduled to purchase PS5s. So clearly, like, he thinks that that's a really strong client. And so now we're going to be talking about what is coming in patch 5.5. This is what we're here for. New main scenario. That makes sense. That's pretty typical as per tradition. It'll be split into two parts. One for part 1 right on launch, so April 13th. And then another bit of story that will release with the half patch, that 5.55, which will come along later on. I think everybody's going to be really disappointed if it's not Necro based on the shirt he's wearing.
Yeah.
Getting to see some art. Cool.
So Ela says wishful thinking, but Beastmaster could use science in Final Fantasy XI.
Okay, so we've got
Back at the council table.
Webs there.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some big royalty on the left side. We've got our party kind of on the right side. Bottom right is an interesting choice of characters to get to be part of this.
Well, I mean, that's all the Scions on the right-hand side, and us, the Warrior of Darkness, in this case, because we're still in Shadowbringers. We haven't yet switched to Paladin. And then on the left-hand side, that's all the city-state leaders gathered together. So it's like where at least used to be a Scion. She's now in charge of Alamingo. So it's like, yeah, it's interesting. Hopefully that means we're all still working toward together. It seemed a little bit confrontational. I don't know.
The story will be linked with Endwalker. Part 1 will be an introduction to Endwalker, and with the Digital FanFest announcement, it'll open up some hints to Part 2 of the story. So during the FanFest announcement, they'll be able to kind of give us some hints that tells us that Part 2, being sometime after, we have Part 2 of this live letter after May, so we know kind of some timing on this. They're talking about the screenshots and stuff right now, and it looks like they're gathering some key people, and we are going to be getting an instance dungeon. This is going to be tied to story, which does mean it's trust compatible. Keep in mind this expansion, everything that's been tied to story has been trust compatible. I would love to see them expand that to 8-mans personally. It's called Pogthan. And so they are showing us one screenshot from us here. It looks very, very kind of Bojin Southern Front to me.
Yeah.
So kind of nice to see maybe that possibly tying in. I don't know. Maybe it's not. We do see in the background of it, we see something interesting kind of keying off of patch 5.4 for anybody that hasn't cleared that. So it looks like it's definitely going to be progressing us forward to some conflict that we have more questions than answers of right now. Reflecting the same feeling back to patch 4.5. As usual, it's going to be pretty vague until we play the dungeon itself. But you'll be able to go in and explore it with a group of 4 or with the trust system. We will be getting new Chronicles of a New Era and the final chapter of Sorrows of Orlit. If you haven't had your day ruined by a tragic storyline, that will be a good time to kind of binge that through and have your day utterly shattered. That is an emotional journey in very few steps, as opposed to 5.0 that is an emotional journey in very many steps. So you can take your pick of how quickly would you like to be brought to tears. We got to see a screenshot from that, and now we're talking about trials, the Cloud Deck, and then of course the Cloud Deck Extreme.
Diamond Weapon is the boss, everybody.
No, they just came out and said it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we thought we knew, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're like, "What weapon could it be?" I think
right, Immortal. I hope you're right.
There's still questions about knowing what the weapon is. Doesn't tell us everything.
Mhm.
New Alliance raid. This will be the final portion of the Yorha Dark Apocalypse. This will be the end of the end of our crossover raid series with Nier Automata, Auto Tomato. So do look forward to the conclusion of that storyline. And Yoshida mentioned somewhat of a character archetype, the hardworking old man being somewhat unpopular in the Japanese community, but it will be shown in the story.
That's with the Diamond Ornament. Yeah.
Now we're talking about the New Alliance raid. So that was actually him referring back to the previous slide. The third chapter, the subtitle is going to be a secret, so they can't tell us. Maybe Nier fans will know just based off this screenshot. Who knows? I'm not somebody who played Nier. I think there's a lot of Nier fans that, with only one to go, they have hopes and dreams kind of pinned on what else could make it into the game, because at this point, if it doesn't get in, it won't.
Mm-hmm.
But there seems to be a somewhat white sphere thing here. So Cassie says, "Oh my gosh!" So hopefully you guys know.
Mm-hmm.
He says,
"I know this area."
Yoshida wonders why it's called the third chapter and not the final chapter. Oh no. There was all original content in this 6.0. How could this not be the final? I assumed it would be the final, but that is... What if it's not ending?
You have to... Your character gets deleted, you gotta go redo all of them?
And then he said, as a joke, will Yoko deliver the promise of wiping the entire data center? Maybe that's why it's the third chapter and not the final chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Whichever it is, we'll get to know more soon. Now, with job adjustments, keep in mind, guys, they're not going to outline a lot here. They're just telling us that they're just confirming that there are. They usually go more into this in part 2, which we know will be the end of May.
I don't know. It just seems interesting that we're getting job, like the expansion literally is next. So it's like, all right, I guess they're, I don't know. Maybe like I would expect big changes. Like I would expect potency adjustments.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's a free time to test things because then they can get some feedback, and it doesn't really matter. It ruins you for one thing.
Yeah.
Showing off some art here.
Oh, that looks good. That looks really good.
So that's going to be, I assume, is that PvP rewards? There are complaints on the PvP rewards, and that something had to be done about it. So here it goes. One of the rewards shown. Cool. Man, very King of the North there.
Yeah.
I dig it. Looks good. Patch in April. Part of this is early April. Yeah, so we have April 13th is 5.5.
Yeah.
But
end of May is 5.55.
Yeah, end of May is 5.55.
So the upgrading of the resistance weapons in patch 4, 5.45. Upgrading requires completion of Save the Queen storyline quests, which we knew, but it did not even register that would require DR.
You're right. Second half of the live letter. Sorry, I've been awake too long. I'll through this. My notes will make more sense when I read it. No, that doesn't add up. Save the Queen. There's something that we needed discussing for upgrading resistance weapons in patch 5.45. They did say that Delibrum Renege would not be the end of Boja. So. Upgrading requires the completion of the Save the Queen story quests, but apparently some people are confused, so he's going to go into depth on this matter. I think there's been a lot of frustration with the way the Save the Queen stuff has been done, because part of that story requires that you do the Castrum stuff from 5.3.5. Upgrades in patch 5.5 X will require completion of the story quest from patch 5.45, which means you will have to do. That means you have to do Deliverum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to get to the point of Deliverum, which means you're gonna have to do your 15. You're gonna have to do your
Castrum and all that.
Tower, then you're gonna have to do your Void Arc, and then my understanding is there's a Palace of the Dead step. Once per job. This is becoming just a preposterous number of hours. For everybody that says that it's not long enough, you got what you asked for. This has gotten long.
Oh, and thanks for the 70 likes, guys, on YouTube. Really appreciate it.
One when beginning the upgrade process and another when finishing. And then quests that must only be completed once per character are the in-betweens. Yes. Yeah, you don't go back through the cutscenes for each additional relic. You just turn in the pieces.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a lot because those beginning and end ones still require that you go get all these components. So not all quests are required to be completed on each job.
Right, like you're not gonna have to do like the DR or Castrum every time you're going through with the job.
Right, you're just going to do the components.
Mm-hmm.
What a mess. I mean, I enjoy it because I'm on the train.
Mm-hmm.
You're behind. Like, that's how I missed Valdez and Arsenal. So I got behind. Okay, here we go. Ooh, improving rewards for Castrum. People haven't run Castrum because there has not been worthwhile rewards, and there is a penalty for dying in it. And so once you have what you need from it, there's no reason to go back in there. It only hurts you and takes time. And yes, it helps other people. And so leading into the most recent patch, the community as a whole seemed to have a push to help people along. But once that kind of that desire to help fades, there isn't anything to kind of sustain it. This duty has become a bottleneck, yes, and it has become increasingly difficult to find players. I know post-patch here, I know for people that are just now trying to get to Castrum, it can feel very helpless, especially depending on if you only have access to the game during certain time slots.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel really frustrated to get not only a run, but a clear. So looking at the information shown in the taskbar does indeed confuse the players. So he's emphasizing that not all quests are required to complete each job. Now for the next aspect, improving the reward for Castrum. This is also for players who are confused with the requirements and need more, and he's going to give more explanation on the matter. Less on the confusion, but more on the complaint and the feedback. So I think he's very well aware of people's frustration. I don't think it was a design intent. I know it was a big point of frustration for me, and it's shown through in our videos where like I talk so positively about the game, and then Brian's like, "What do you think about Castrum?" And then like I'm just mad for the rest of the day.
It's like, ah.
I'm like, I didn't know that bothered me until you mentioned it. Additionally, rewards will be added that are scheduled for a hotfix. Ooh.
I think it'd be nice to see Castrum if it was like on a queue, just like DR. So it's like, okay, you've gotten to that point. It could randomly pop out in Boja, or if you need it, queue for it, and we'll find you a group.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's a fun piece of content.
The devs are aware that the ratio of alternate methods required that it's used by other players to upgrade resistance weapons is a bit unbalanced, so they're looking into it. Oh no. Are they going to take away the 100% chance drop of the other methods?
That'd be crazy. Like, oh man, if it's guaranteed, go to the guaranteed way.
They're going to address the issue with a hotfix that's not going to be involved in a patch number release. So it's just going to happen.
Yeah, they're just going to pop that in.
Like the Ishgard Restoration World Visit stuff. wonder when. I mean, obviously far enough out that they felt they needed to tell us about it in a pre-recorded or in a pre-planned announcement like this.
Yeah.
But not so far out that they felt they could just shove it in the next numbered patch.
Right.
So they say ask for patience. Obviously, they weren't prepared to do this, or it would have just already happened.
Luxario says, so basically it's going to make it even harder to get a run now because everyone's actually going to wait for these new rewards. It's like, oh, I'm going to slow down. Not going to do that. I'm going to wait till I get paid.
I mean, I've got so much to do for my current relic steps that, like, I'm not even going into Bojan Southern Front, so I'm not helping the problem.
Yeah.
I've got to run, between my 4 tanks, I have to run 60 Crystal Tower runs, and then I get to start on Void Ark, which is another, I don't remember if it's 15 or 18, so it could be another 60 or more. 60 or 70 of those runs. And then I get to go through Palace of the Dead, which is, I think, like 10 clears of 10 floors or something, I think is what somebody told me. So I have to go run another 400 floors of Palace of the Dead. Like, when am I supposed to go back and help people? Oh.
Yeah, I haven't got a single one of the new items to drop when in Boja, but I did get my guaranteed crystal. So Crystal Tower run. I was like, all right, that, you know, and then you were doing it on Blue Mage, like just burning it down within seconds. So
Blue Mage is like 10 minutes to clear. And he says, until then, he encourages players to help each other out. The problem is that relying on generosity is not a long-term sustainable thing. You can't design a system where philanthropy is the planned requirement. That just isn't sustainable. Like, there has to be a systematic change that makes it it just, altruism's not a plan. It's a good thing, and that's great, but, you know, for when the system gets overrun, right?
yeah, you mean your state doesn't have like
Master hits is fine, but we shouldn't design a system so that, you know, the Red Cross is part of the core infrastructure. Like, that's just not reliable.
yeah, you mean your state doesn't have any homeless people and you have solved poverty? Altruism was your plan? Perfect. Well done.
Difficulty, however, will likely not change because it defeats the purpose of having such content to begin with. Yes, it's very grindy content. I agree with him on that.
Yeah, I don't mind the grind. I don't mind like that.
There's literally parts that I can't do.
Well, it's the same complaint that I have with PvP. It's like, hey, like, let's say I had 2 hours to play. Like, okay, cool. And then if you can't get any of that traction, you're just eventually just going to go somewhere else. As opposed to, like, if you got 2 hours to play and you were able to get 2 or 3, you know, runs at the current difficulty, you know, it's able to put you with the people. Then ultimately, I think that's what would make it exciting. And so in patch 5.5, we're going to see the Save the Queen update.
This, of course, will be the final step. Keep in mind, guys, that your relics and your Skysteel tools will likely mean literally nothing in the next expansion minus cosmetics. Upgrading requires the completion of the Save the Queen story quests. So he's moving forward to announce the next quests, this being the final step. And we'll be moving into a new area, Zadnor. So if you think that you were frustrated that you couldn't get clears before, we're going to further fragment this. This is what happened with Eureka. It's really fun content. So as somebody that's on this train, I'm really excited. But I am looking out the back of the train at people being left behind. And so saying we're going to address them while I'm on a train riding into the future just feels really mixed. The only difference between now and the 4.x series is I'm on the train, not the guy looking at it drive slowly away. I spent the amount of time it would have taken me to get Baldesian Arsenal clears watching Ms. Tech clear Baldesian Arsenal, and she's not the only creator I watched clear Baldesian Arsenal. I spent more time watching Baldesian Arsenal than it would have taken to just get it myself, because the grind to get there once I fell off the Eureka train was so frustrating. Unreal Trial. Cool. What's the next Unreal going to be? So, some popular opponents will be available in Zadnor for a challenge. So that should be, that'll be exciting. See what they're going to put in there as, I guess, our critical engagements.
Mm-hmm.
a third one for luck. All right. So they said a new trial will be the one selected. Keep in mind, guys, that means that Titan will be retired. So if you haven't gotten that clear, you need to go do that. Because as 5.5 gets closer, we're going to find out what that new trial is, and Titan will be removed. And then we'll get a new Unreal. And he said, feel free to speculate on who it will be. The translator said, please look forward to it and put a trademark on that, just as a laugh.
Little TM.
Because that is a phrase they use a lot. Crafter updates. More expert recipes. This will require higher level equipment and an expert use of crafting skills. So more stuff that cannot be macroed, which is good, because my frustration leveling crafters right now is so much of it still can be macroed. I have a very bad macro that I wrote myself, and like it's still shockingly moving me through it. Now, keep in mind, like I'm only in like the 460s, so I haven't made it into my 490s. I'm progressing through at my own pace, so I'm behind. But it's exciting to know there's going to be more. There's more stretch being added to the end of that runway before I get there. So I'm excited about that announcement. He said it's requested a lot, so the devs said, "Fine, let's do it then." I don't know how to read that tone, but it says, "Okay, fine, let's do it then." Cool. And then gatherer update. Maps opened via the gathering log will indicate areas where gathering points happen. Oh, that's a nice UI change. Right now, when you click on a thing, it zooms in on that section. But then if you zoom out, you kind of have to remember where you were. So it'll be nice to see that kind of maybe labeled, maybe like a little type fate type thing, where it can show you the circle. The achievements will make the crafters stand out. After all, it's a form of end-game content, so it has to be something worthwhile. Good. So the challenging expert recipes are going to have something tied to them. Something worth having. That's good.
Yeah.
You want better fishing hints? You don't have to Google it. The problem is that the best sites to deal with it run so poorly. They're browser heavy. So like the best sites out there are just so clunky.
Yeah.
A list of fish to be released at fishing holes will be added. Ooh. And this is all done upon reflection of feedback from the players. Cool. I'm touching gathering, so after I finish crafting, so we'll get there. Wednesdays is when I stream all my crafting and gathering content. If you guys want to come hang out. Ishgardian Restoration update.
Dun dun dun.
I thought we were done.
We gotta sweep up and tidy up and pass inspection, and then we can open up housing in 6.0.
You're not even close on Crystal.
Yeah.
So maybe they're going to speed it up for people? So that everybody's done in time for 6.0? The firmament will periodically celebrate its completion. Oh, that's a clever way of bringing the fates back. And he said, it's supposed to be the final patch, so isn't this the end? Let's not be hasty. Okay, that was my question. He said, so first of all, and then I'm waiting on the translator. Good. I wondered how they were going to deal with that, because like the achievements got left in game, the mounts got left in game. So like the question is, how are they going to encourage people to continue to use that content now that the rankings are over? But maybe the rankings aren't over. Maybe we're going to have more races. So during these periods, these brief celebratory periods, the locals are going to hold feats. Is that the fates?
I would say yes.
So it's the same thing?
Yeah, I would say yes. I'm gonna chalk it up to yes.
New kind of trigger will happen during this celebration. Okay. Cool. I'm gonna trust that that's just a feats is parties, but is that what the fate things are, where we all like make something together? Feats means fest in French. Okay. Currently, this is what's going to be.
Party like a fest.
More details to come in the future. Okay, so maybe we're not building a new city. Maybe we'll just keep this one going. New custom delivery client. This will be tied to the firmament. Good. Am I going to be capped at 6 per thing per week? Okay. I don't. Story quest related to the firmament. I don't know what that means. It's exciting to see that the firmament isn't going to just die as a zone, but like I don't know how well it lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've kept Wondrous Tales alive, but it's not what it was.
Right.
Acquisition rates of the 4-star cards index are going to be adjusted, or acquisition rates of cards will be adjusted, adjusting the use of 4-star cards index. Triple Triad, something they've been given a lot of life to lately. And then a reward will be added for obtaining all the Triple Triad cards. Is it a card or is it something else?
If it's a mount, like, okay, time to get back to work on that.
Let's get to work on it. Brian and I used to be really good about it back in...
Mm-hmm. We did it. Like, we play all the time.
3.x. And then we kind of fell off.
Yeah, we play serious until, like, one of us, like, got our weekly, like, win count. And then the other, and then after that, like, oh, how many do you need? Then I would just like, or whoever would like didn't win, like you just throw the rest of the games, so everybody gets their weeklies.
This is done to augment the achievement of having all the cards obtained, considering this is an MMO where collections are somewhat of an impact. The rewards are for certain milestones of cards, not all cards, since it's an MMO and the number's always increasing. Yeah, that's the way everything. Yeah, so like sometimes the best reward is not actually the final number. It's like it keeps going after that. As they continue to do it. Explorer mode update. Okay, so that's for the G-Post thing. New duties will be added. Level 70 dungeons. Cool. Right? That's the G-Post thing? Is that Explorer mode?
Yeah.
Okay. And then level sync and item level sync can be disabled. Okay.
Perfect.
I assume that allows you when you're in there to cast your top level abilities in low level zones.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know why the item level sync would matter.
Yeah, I can't think of it, especially because you're not actually fighting enemies in there. You're just taking
I can
pictures.
see why level sync got removed, because you may want to cast like a level 80 ability.
Mm-hmm.
Explorer mode is the ability to run G-Pose through dungeons. And you can be on mounts, and you can do all the stuff that you can't normally do in a dungeon. You'll now be able to play instruments while you're in the dungeon. So it was announced last live letter. Maybe the one before. They had the UI guy come on and talk about it.
Yeah.
So it allows the Explorers mode feature to expand. Cool.
So right now it's for level 80 and above dungeons death. So to activate it, I think it's a special thing within the duty settings. You would go into your settings and say Explorer mode and then queue for it. And this is adding them to the level 70 dungeons.
And they're adding even more flexibility and freedom to the things you can do. Cool. You can already do a lot in there. So now that you can play like your instruments, you can ride mounts.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's part of the duty section of the menu? I don't know. Let's go open that up.
Yeah, I agree, Princess. But
I have no idea where it is.
Well,
It's not something I actively wanted, I guess.
Oh, I'm gonna take my shoes off.
Duty recorder? No. Where do you think it is? Duty Finder?
Under the Duty Finder settings, I would bet.
Oh, okay. Duty Finder settings.
Yeah, like it's gonna be great that we have a new
Oh,
color.
right. It's under Duty Finder settings, so the same place you activate Undersized Party, you can go to Explorer mode, which allows you to change jobs when you're in the dungeon, allows you to have minions, mounts, and fashion accessories out, things like your paracels. It will disable all other Duty Finder participation requirement settings. So now they're just broadening that even more. Cool. Time for some miscellaneous updates. These are the updates that will be shown on the slide, so not much to say from Yoshida's side is what the translator says. So new indicators for bonuses while ocean fishing will be added. A new instrument will be added to the performance feature. They'll probably show us that new instrument in the next part of the live letter. A reward for obtaining all trial mounts from the 5.x series will be added. So anybody that wants to go gather those up, now you'll have a reason to. They have a screenshot of that mount, and it's this dragon. That's awesome.
With jets on it.
Uber dragon. This is what you'll get for completing all trial mounts from the 5.x patch series. So for anybody that wants to go do that, go get that. Uber dragon confirmed.
That's right, Ro. Derplander went from archer to warrior to dragoon to monk to Sam to dark and then paladin.
Look at that Dark Knight riding that thing. I wonder how they decided what job to have showing off in the screenshot. Cool. I mean, don't worry, that stuff doesn't get removed. So if you don't want to run that level of content, just kind of keep that in the back of your head, and at some point that'll be something that's much easier to do. So you can always come back next expansion and do that. So for players that aren't into extremes and all that, don't worry about it. You can go back and do that. Now, remember that these you get a totem. It's every time you get a clear, right? You get a totem. So it's 99 totems to buy a mount from your extremes. They can also drop, but they're rare drop rates, and so that kind of there's always a safety net to guarantee that you're not running a trial 600.
600 times, just 99 times.
Just 99 times, and you can turn your totem.
Bad luck.
On the next aspect, Yoshi P wants to issue an apology.
Don't tell me the ultimate
trial. Oh no!
Don't tell me it's delayed. I'm not going to do it, but I feel for the ultimate.
Dragon Song War Ultimate.
Oh, nice.
They don't usually announce it like that, do they?
Yeah, I think so.
First, they have created a new ultimate, the Dragon Song War. That doesn't sound like an apology. Reimagining the Dragon Song War with a what-if scenario. It is at 70% completion. Says my brother just finished a workout. What are you doing, man? 1 a.m.
Okay, they originally planned it for release in 5.55, so it is getting a slight delay.
Okay. Is it still coming out this expansion?
Don't know yet.
Oh, no. This is a very expensive piece of content to do. This is our fetch 5.55555. This is expensive content to make. And not a lot of players get to clear it, but it is big for the community. If you guys have never hung out in the World First coverage will likely be done by Frosty again, and he did an excellent job organizing an event for the Savage. So hopefully they can find people and contributors and sponsors and kind of all the back of house staff and stuff that supported him and made art and all of that to level it up even more, because it was an incredible show to watch. So if you guys aren't following Frosty here on Twitch, he does do like Party Finder clears a couple nights a week to kind of keep his Twitch active, because I think at some point he'd like to have a partner on that channel, and that would help him kind of with tools and stuff for it. Unfortunately, Twitch isn't really set up to have somebody who only covers like World First events get partner. So
it's at a situation in which that it would impact the development of Endwalker. Are they just canceling it?
No!
Or is it just be the first?
It's been postponed and is currently scheduled for the release of 6.1 because they needed to prioritize the development of other content. I'm so sorry.
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry to the rating community.
That is awful.
They have been waiting since 5.1 for this.
It is so hard for the top level raiders in this community to have the amount of content that it takes compared to other games. What a long gap.
So for context, somebody like chat saying that's not that bad. that's over a year from now. That's not until 2022 that you're going to see that. So it's another year on top of the year that people have already waited. That's a long wait.
And then the question, will we get 3 during 6.0 or will we go back to
No.
2 and just skipped
We
1?
might just, whatever they were going to do for 6.1 probably is going to drop in.
2 per expansion.
Yeah, it sucks because it's not really their fault. Like, that's COVID, that's everything. And this is the first thing that's really kind of getting cut out of his schedule because they're really trying to, get all this stuff knocked out.
He said he tried asking the devs for overtime on this, but the factors just aren't working. Overtime here, it's not like overtime isn't going to fix it. He apologizes profusely for not being able to deliver, and he tried his best. Therefore, sorry players, no ultimate till patch 6.1. Oh man, that makes me sick to my stomach. That sucks. That sucks.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what can you do? What can you do?
The transparency here, the ability to own this. These live letters are what allow us to have a real dialogue with them. So the silver lining here is that we're being told as soon as they know.
My heart goes out to Yoshi and the team because especially getting 70% of the way there, like they want to release it. Like that's part of the joy and things like that. My heart's also with the Ultimate Raiders who were looking at doing this content, who were hoping to have another Ultimate Raid to kind of attack this expansion. But I mean, there's no one at fault. Like I mean, that's a big pain in the COVID ass right there.
I'm listening to see if Foxconn's going to try to speak in English. Just know that if they ever speak English, that's a very big statement. They both feel very uncomfortable with it as a second language, that they're going to say something wrong and misconvey the wrong message. So while they understand English and they're perfectly capable of speaking it, they typically let live translators and stuff handle it. So that because we hang on their every word and a simple turn of phrase could have us massively misunderstand something. So if they speak English, that's just a big sign if he comes here to apologize. I just wanted to listen and make sure that if they were going to say that, we heard it out. But they said they're already 70% complete with it, so it will be released. And then he's asking Foxconn if he should do this in English because they think the slide can convey everything. So they're going to end the first half of the live letter, guys. So this is the first half of the second half of today's events. And so, they're gonna take a little bit of breather here, and then what they do is they go back, and now we're gonna come back with they have the production manager is gonna come on and join them. They're still contemplating whether or not there's any more they can say here. But basically the first half of so we have 2 live letters per patch. The first, both of them have 2 parts. So we really have 4 parts. The first part of both is where we get all of our information, the overlay of the information, and then the actual gameplay and stuff of the parts they really want to dive in on and deep dive over just a few parts. And then the patch notes being what fills in the gaps. And the second part of those live letters is where we get dialogues with what's going on with other projects. They have guests come on, people like the production manager, people like the UI manager, people like the people helping oversee implementation of things like the Yorha raids or the Monster Hunter stuff. The second half is not as pivotal if you're just trying to get hey, what's going on with my character, but it is what gives us the transparency and gives us the feel outside of like interviews and live letters, or interviews and like FanFest type events with Q&A panels. This is what gives us the transparency to know how they kind of feel about things. So the second part is, I guess, not as important on its own, but the second part as a cumulative thing over the course of an expansion give us a great deal of context.
And chat saying that better a delay than something like another situation like Cyberpunk 2077, and I definitely agree. Doesn't make it easier to swallow in that sense, because people waited for Cyberpunk for too long for that anyhow. But yeah, absolutely correct, chat. So Commander, if you're on Sargatanas, I don't know. Oh, Chris, are you on? Because you can message Chris. Good. Yeah, I see that. Good deal. Otherwise, just hit up the Discord.
Let me open up, make sure we don't have any applications.
Yeah, that's usually the easiest.
We don't have any applications. So if you apply to work to game, I'll do it. But you can also just message me and tell me to check my messages because I'm
check
not.
your messages. I wonder if they'll balance the ultimate for level 90.
I would assume so. If it's coming out in 6.0. The problem is that kicks the deadline out, right? So they say they're 70% done, but now they have to design with the new abilities and the new stuff like that. So it actually extends the amount of work that they have to do.
Right.
Because anything that they design for the current abilities might get broken. As far as tuning goes.
Mm-hmm.
Because an undertuned one, you're giving it to the best players in the world to race. So any overtuning or undertuning becomes really apparent really fast. As opposed to, with dungeons where it's like,
So for the over 700 of you hanging out here on YouTube, if you want to check the top link in chat that's pinned, it's for our Twitch page, which we're live on as well. We're been pushing for partners, so every lurk and every follow helps out dramatically over there as well. But thank you for being here, and thanks for the 110 likes here on YouTube. Really appreciate the support. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully you're having fun. Sorry my energy's dipping a little bit. I'm excited, but I'm emotionally overwhelmed by everything today.
What you mean you couldn't spend the last 3 days slowly adjusting your sleep schedule, as a working father? Because I just adjusted my sleep schedule and my wife kind of dealt with the dog for the hours that I was sleeping in the middle of the day. So I'm good to go. I'll actually be staying live after this ends to kind of go back over everything. And if Brian needs to take off, I'll handle that.
I'm hyped for the new healer, Cassie. That healer looks great. I'm hyped that we're getting a hypey hoopy hoo, that it's barrier, and that's going to help. Hopefully, maybe even bring Scholar back into prominence, because then essentially you can have the pure healer and the barrier healer. A little bit more definition between the 4 healers.
All right, so they're now going to share a little information on how the ultimate is done. They've had panels on this in the past in FanFest. That's why I say I know it's an expensive process, because they've had whole panels dedicated to just the process in which an ultimate comes to be. He said that since ultimate is done using existing content as its base to make it and then to make it dramatic, the difficulty is drastically increased along with the dramatic theme. In other words, they're making some sort of the ultimate form of that boss. The structure is as you see in the ultimate battles, a gathering of all of the bosses, which presents a challenge. The mechanics are also restructured, which makes communication between the creator of that raid and the testers a bit hard, because of how complex the mechanic is.
Yeah.
The various adjustments required to make the ultimate battle work is really time consuming, which is why the pandemic sort of hampered the development. This resulted in the delay. So another apology from Yoshida. We'll be entering breaks. So we finished the first half of the producer, the live letter here, which introduces patch 5.5 along with the announcement showcased earlier. But the next guest is going to provide a whole load of insight. What are we watching?
Oh, it's the new album, Scions and Sinners. Wonderful. Yeah, Primals, go baby.
Tacos. Oh, these guys are so cool. I love these guys. I'm
excited that they've actually got the ability to stream.
Weird Pixie, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for all you hanging out in the Lurk Force. I know many of you are getting tired. Don't worry, Brian and I will have summaries and stuff. There will be a variety of content maybe coming out on Ginger Prime. I know I'll want to talk about some of this on Gaming Kinda. Brian and I will want to talk about this together on Work to Game. So expect, as much as I said February, I was really trying to move towards a consistent schedule with Gaming Kinda. I knew this first week out of the gate was just going to get totally screwed by this. That's just the nature of it. This is just a big week for content. So it's going to be big. This is awesome. So we had the first, if you're interested in knowing more, kind of stay behind and we'll kind of go through all this. Foxhorn's going to play a preview of the upcoming Primals album, The Scions and Sinners, which is what we're hearing right now. I'm trying to talk over a little bit because otherwise I think at some point here, either on the Twitch end or on the YouTube end, we'll get it claimed, but feel free to go watch this over on the other one and come back and hang out. We will have the second portion where they're going to have the production manager come say hello. I'm excited. Oh, they are getting after it. And I see many of you starting to take off. This is the portion that if you just want the additional context, you can come back and catch our summary. Hanging on every word is most important for the first half of the live letters. We'll get another one before April 13th, where we'll get another half. They'll go over in more detail of kind of showing job adjustments, things like that. And then we will have a fan fest May 15th through 16th, which should get us kind of prepped for 6.0. So we've got a lot. Midnight Rain coming in with the Prime sub. Zero coming in with the Prime sub. Thank you guys so much for choosing to share your Prime with us for your very first time. I'm going to turn the avatars back on so you guys can see your Pokemon running around.
I'll turn mine on as well.
Cool.
Why they do their song and dance here.
And yeah.
And the other thing you guys I think can do if you no pressure to do so, but if you feel like joining just the lurk force besides that, you can always just I think mute the tab.
You guys start another hype train.
Oh wow, seriously.
Small and Toro with the Prime subs fired off a hype train. Thank you so much. That gives all sorts of rewards out for you guys. We have the hype train set at the lowest setting because they said that's the I think that's the easiest way to get rewards out to everybody that takes part in that. Mm-hmm. At some point, I can level that up, but my understanding with the hype trains is that there's no additional rewards given to you guys until I go up quite a bit in the levels. So I've been resistant to do that because my understanding is if we don't finish it, you don't get anything. So I didn't want to scale it to hype train Savage unless I thought we could complete it. So maybe I should have done that tonight. I don't know. But Battle Rock with the Prime sub. So maybe I'll scale that up for like the first week of every month or something. And that way when everybody's Prime subs fall off, we can do it that way. I don't really know. In between, the only thing that benefits is me and Brian. So like, I haven't wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Do something that benefits you guys as well. Cause I think that's the cool part of the hype trains. Fido with 100 biddies,
Games and Graps with
Games
1,000 bits. Jeez Louise, thank you. Man, freaking generous. Thank you so much.
I do have some new bit rewards I want to roll out here pretty soon, so hopefully I'll get those up over the weekend. Would be a perfect world. Try to get that so that cool things happen when we're streaming. Phil with 10 tier gifts.
Yeah. Muting does mute, but like you can mute the tab. It's the player that has to be like over 5%, but yeah. And then, jeez Louise, oh my goodness.
Zeph, Lol, Ow66, Raya's Friendly, Gunslinger, Secretive, Freezer, and Tiber. You're all now running around on the screen.
Thank you so much.
Hanging out as you slowly fall asleep to the melodic sounds of our slowly waning voices. Thank you so much for lurking and hanging out.
I would love anything with the scythe for for like a melee DPS. At the same time, like if you gave me a hammer, or like we have a great sword, but yeah, like a great hammer, I think that'd be really cool. I know Chris technically has one as an axe, but I think that like a berserker style, for a melee DPS, that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, I think we're all up way too late here. I'm hurting right now. I'm just like, all right.
I'm still going strong.
Chris is on. Like I was like, I could get some coffee. I'm like, I want to sleep. I want to go to bed after this. I don't want to be like, and now I'm awake forever.
Today till 4 p.m.
Yeah.
I was up at like noon, and I was just being super lazy till like 4, so that I could keep going. You have 6 more Delibram runs to finish your relic. Congrats, Zero. That's a long grind. So Delibram's the last step. So it's Crystal Tower, then Void Ark, then Palace of the Dead, then Delibram. Is that right? I'm only on the Crystal Tower step, so everything after that is from what I've been told. Phil with the 500 biddies. I have the overlay turned off for that, but 500 biddies has a special event that happens normally. Thank you so much. Turgid Banana with the Prime subs. Sir Dukes with the Prime sub. Thank you guys so much.
Sir Dukes actually was a tier 1 sub.
Oh, tier 1 sub. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Eyes are clearly glazing over. 20 squats, which we have 3. One more for Lux.
I need to do these squats.
5 squats and 20 curls if you haven't done your 20 curls yet, Brian. Good news, can confirm for anyone who is confused about the relic that the 18 runs of Evilise and mock raids only need to be done once after that you just run the 15 DRs. Oh, good. Good. Cool. Crystal Tower, Void Arc, Evil East, DR. And you only need to do the Evil East once, is what you're saying? Cool. And then the last step is Palace of the Dead or Deliverum. I'll probably run Deliverum. One more for luck, one more for luck. So we're at 45. We're at 45 for the squats there.
45.
You guess you get to catch a stream from us. So my next stream will be at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time Monday morning. Brian said he may be able to stream this weekend, but Brian's streams are bonus streams, so hopefully you guys enjoy that.
And I probably, if I'm streaming, Chris, it will be on Work to Game, so I don't impact our...
He will stream on Work to Game because right now we are applying for partner, and so that unfortunately requires that our numbers are really consistent. And so the fact that he can be called away on Father of 5 duty at any time means that he could end up cutting a stream short at 30 minutes or an hour, which just doesn't let enough of you know that we're going live to be there. So it ends up not being... just until we get the check mark, just until we get an application, he can't really join in on those shorter streams. Even once we get partner, I'm just going to assume that one day we will. Those streams will be in addition to my consistent schedule. So those will remain bonus streams. I will be live with 30
The
hours.
live letter is not over. The part 1 of the live letter is
5 squats. Oh my goodness. Once he gets back here, I'll get to work. 3 months. Here comes another sub from Captain. Thank you so much. Looks like the hype train completed. I would love a two-handed mace melee job. That would be awesome. Over on WoW, do we raid? So we don't. We don't do anything official. Brian actually hasn't finished leveling yet, and then I'm in a guild with friends, so I don't have the ability to invite. I'm in there as an FNF. They're actually pretty serious raiders, and so what's nice about that for me is that as a casual player, anytime I reach out to them, it's really easy for me to find like Mythic Plus groups. But if there is an interest, if as we've talked about bringing WoW more online throughout the year, if we end up doing that, we'll create one. But the great thing about WoW is it's really, really easy for us to party up because all of North America Horde gets to play together. But we are on Mal'Ganis just in case you want to be on exactly the same server. Since we don't raid, it's not an issue. Brook with the tier 1 sub for 5 months. Thank you so much. And then Orden sharing your Prime sub with us this month. Pharaoh giving us 1,000 bits. Thank you guys.
a
Double hydrate.
Over on Twitch, you can, if subs is like support, like membership is here on YouTube, and by sub or no, if you watch on Twitch, you actually get channel points, which has us do like workouts and exercise. Basically, you interact with the stream for free, which is a lot of fun. And then I hope YouTube decides to step up and do fun things like that over here, especially like with channel points, because it ends up just being a lot of fun, in my opinion. All right, I'm done with squats for a little bit.
Okay, he's got 55. I've been hydrating regularly, so before they come back from this, I do want to be able to use the restroom. 60 squats. Okay. Until I finish them, I'm not applying those to the next one. So I'm going to do those 60 squats when I get back. Let me use the restroom real quick as soon as Brian's back in his chair with his headphones on and can chat with you lovely people.
I'm not as feeling energetic as Chris has been. Pharaoh, thanks for the 1,000 bits. You're insane. Thank you, Odin. Oh my goodness gracious, guys. Thank you so much for just hanging out with us here. It's been an insane day. For chat itself, like, is there anything that from Endwalker that is the thing that you were wanting to see? Like, you know, because we've been talking about a thing that makes us fall out of our chair. I was really hoping for Xbox support. Well, I'm not going to keep holding my breath on that, but I would love to see something along the lines. Excuse me for yawning, guys. I am exhausted. It's been a day. Get that green DPS. The cross data centers is such a good move. Such a good community for like gamer and community first move. The fact that we'll be able to get together and play no matter what data center you're on. I think that's going to be a lot of fun and exciting to see ultimately. Excuse me while I catch my breath.
Okay. 60 squats.
Oh yeah. Still catching my breath on that one. Aether and Crystal are back together again. Yeah, I don't think blue is ever going to be unlimited. I like that all that system, that would have to be a whole system change. Looks like they're back. Back from break. Guess who's back again? Oh, I love the contrast in art where, like, on the right hand side you got the Warrior Darkness, and then on the left hand side you got Zodiark and Hydaelyn stuff. Who knows? Cannot wait to see what this means. So yeah, if you have two characters, you just can log in on whatever character. But if you didn't want to do that, you can just, pop on over. Now, they haven't mentioned one for 5.5, which is interesting, and that makes me wonder. Like, I guess we're getting Reaper, so that's definitely not Beastmaster or Puppet Master. So, we will see. If we don't end up getting a Beastmaster or Puppet Master, they end up just kind of like, okay, limited jobs later. Like, that's also unfortunate, personally. I've been, I guess, tempered by Hydaelyn this whole time, so I think I'd probably just go ahead and say Team Hydaelyn. If that makes any kind of sense. I mean, limited job could easily have also gotten delayed, just like we just saw with Ultimate. And for that, I'm like, okay. That'd be interesting to see, like, if they added, like, the limited job, like, in patch, like, 6.1 or something. Oh, Gooby. So duties of a 14 project manager: budget planning and project management, schedule and setting milestones, processing all sorts of proposals across projects, divisions, and sections, overseeing progress of the game updates, handling of outsourcing contracts, negotiating with platform providers and processing of applications, handling region-specific issues, maintaining and improving the developer's work environment.
Oof. That's a lot.
Yeah.
You've been wanting Xbox support. You're sorry it didn't happen. Really grind prediction with maybe an E3 or similar. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah, because the expansion's still plenty of time off. Like, they haven't opened it up for pre-orders, but God, I'm just tired of getting I'm tired of hoping, in that regards. And I know it sucks to say because I think hope is an important thing. When I go to sleep on it, I'm sure I'm going to have, like, a happier attitude, and it's like, be hopeful for a potential announcement, but it would have just felt so perfect to be like, and it's coming to Xbox,
In other words, he does everything Yoshi P doesn't want to do. I mean, Ethis saying we're not tempered is based on everything we've been shown. So if we haven't been shown something, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there's something about what we've been shown that was only part of the truth, then that can change Ethis' understanding, right? While he may have taken in at a deeper level, him and people like Anonymous may have taken in at a deeper level more than the rest of us, that doesn't mean that, right? Like, sometimes they ask questions that, like, even Koji Fox is like, we don't really know yet. So, like, things can change.
So this is the end of the Zodiark Hydaelyn story that will wrap up and conclude with when you finish 6.0, and then something else. Then after that, whatever comes next, and it's going to be a whole different adventure. Whatever that means.
Because it's not like they're covering fact, right? They're covering story that they're writing.
Yeah.
And while they may have the major milestones written several expansions out, when they get to the small details, that's where people like Ethos and Anonymous start connecting things that they may or may not have intended.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why a lot of times when at Q&As they get asked something like, how much time has passed between two events? They're like, and they get really dodgy, because if they start nailing down a timeline, that's where inconsistencies appear. And that's why Anonymous helped on the last lore book, because the lore book before that, he basically was like, hey, you got this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. And they were like, you know what? Do you just want to help with the next one? Like, clearly, clearly you're paying attention to some details that we may have missed. So here's an example of what this guy does. So they say, hey, I need you to incorporate Mahjong into Final Fantasy XIV. Say it's a game from Doma. And then he, of course, goes back, well, like, how does that affect the game's lore? Mm-hmm. What does this line of Mahjong look like? So he's just making it happen.
It's interesting we haven't heard about the Final Fantasy XV MMO in well over a year, so I guess they're plugging away at that. I wonder if that's going to be a project that gets canceled like the Final Fantasy XI mobile game.
To announce the cancellation that we've just forgotten about it.
Yeah.
Sony doesn't own Square, so I don't know what they're paying to keep Final Fantasy and stuff so locked into Sony, but
no.
I doubt it's free.
No, it's not free. Square Enix is plenty profitable, even after losing all that money on Avengers, so it's plenty.
I doubt it's free.
It's there. It's not was. They're working on the Final Fantasy XV MMO. Microsoft has like way more than Sony, but yeah, at some point you're like, at some point you'd probably look at that number and be like, it might as well just buy Square Enix. They almost did. That's the crazy thing. Every time anybody says American companies can't buy Japanese companies, I'm be like, that's just fake news.
The step one to continuing to have more money is to not spend it, though. So
yeah, exactly.
Microsoft has more doesn't mean they're ready to purchase Square Enix.
I'm sure they're gonna. I've heard they've already purchased a couple of more studios. We'll have to, we'll have to see when that news breaks.
They don't have to have people paying 2 sub fees. Xbox has already backed down before on making sure that Xbox Live Silver gives you access to things that have a subscription. So Xbox has already backed down before on that. And as they move more and more to like being less and less of a hardware platform, more than ever a software platform that sells eyeballs, they can say, hey, just come on. And, every time you go to log on to Final Fantasy XIV, we say, hey, this game's on sale and this game's on Game Pass, and there can be a conversion there. So like, I don't think that's the real thing that's stopping. There may have been a time when that was the thing, but I think that's gone.
Yeah, because you can play free to play. Well, they're making it where you can play free to play games without the requirement of gold, which is a really good move. And it's so good that Sony has that as competition, because it's like it was a sheer contrast.
I mean, Microsoft is trying really hard to grow their RPG library.
Mm-hmm.
So Square Enix would be a good partner in that.
Most likely, it's going to be Sega and Namco.
Yeah, that's pretty logical. Doesn't mean it will happen, but that's a logical step. So they're just showing examples right now of all the stuff that Yoshi P may not want to do that he can hand off.
What did he say specifically about the PS5 and not the PS4? Immortal?
So they're going to go over kind of some in the nutshell, like how how the making of Final Fantasy kind of happens. So they're just talking about the production kind of layout. They did the same with like the UI manager, I think was the last guest. So when they don't have like a major crossover, and they kind of, this gives us the ability to see the team. The 14 community, like we have a lot of communication from the dev team, but most of it comes through Koji, Foxconn, and Yoshi P. And yes, we know like Soken's name and all that, but it's very easy to forget that that it's not just Yoshi P. And we know he has a team of devs, but like it can feel kind of like he's the front man and they're just a bunch of supporting artists. And segments like this are what kind of reminds us that there's a lot of other very talented people who have whole careers in this that make a lot of this stuff possible.
And Zoela says, I've heard multiple times that Microsoft wants Mog Station items on the Windows Store so they can get a cut. And if that's the case, I don't see Square Enix giving up that ply, especially considering how many of y'all Fantasia all the gosh darn time. it's like nah. I don't know though. I think it's more important to have that offering. I think it'd be more important to get 14 into Game Pass, but with no Xbox announcement, it's like I'm not gonna hold my breath. And then as far as the information on the Final Fantasy XV MMO, we posted on that like over a year ago. Let me see if I can't drop that in a chat real quick for y'all. Very depleted, Xeno. Very depleted. I am on fumes.
Usually the cost of development and its inner details are done by Yoshida. But Matsuzawa does have to fulfill the task list and usually has to go through Yoshida before proceeding. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Brian's getting tired.
Here's the job of a project manager in development and how hard it is. Yes.
And this is actually project manager in most corporate structures. Like my wife works for an architecture firm, and a project manager there has a very similar task list here. Somebody has a vision, they make it happen. So they need an understanding of the industry to know what's possible. And then they ultimately have to go back to that person for signing off, but they need to say, okay, you asked me for 3 things, and that 3 things is going to make 57 steps. And here's the other resources I'm going to need to go secure and all of that. And so they kind of, they extend the bandwidth of whoever's actually driving. And they actually, as a result, have a pretty large impact on the game. So we have a 3.5 to 4 month cycle, which we know. This is how, when you see like Mr. Happy put out his video at the beginning of expansions predicting the patches and what will be in each patch. There is an incredible consistency to patch length here, this kind of 16 week patch cycle. And there's been a pattern between 2.x, 3.x, 4.x, and 5.x where we know roughly what's coming in every patch. And so until told otherwise, we can believe that the 6.x content cycle will be very similar to the 5.x, except in ways that they've already warned us. So like the story this time being kind of part 1, part 2 is a shift from this like part 1, part 2. So we know that. And we know that these are the major patches, and that within major patches, we have kind of our early patch, right? That's a couple weeks in to our half patch. And then sometimes there's a late patch as well. And then every once in a while, there's something that like is part of a patch, but then gets delayed by a little bit. I wish that patch 5.45 had a bit of that. That kind of kept people from competing between Delibram and Blue Mage and PvP. Me personally, I would have liked to see there be like a 1 to 2 week delay before we had access to some of it to kind of help funnel people into content that requires people to get clear. Because I think fragmenting the community ends up leaving multiple aspects of the community short-manned.
Mandalore over on YouTube says, do you guys think we're going to get the opposite genders at all? If you guys think that's going to happen, you're going to see the female Harath and male Vieira. Put a thumbs up or some kind of emote like that's that. If you think that it's not happening, put a thumbs down or some kind of thumb like that. And like I've been saying for 2 years, and I still hold true to it. No, it's just not happening.
It's not happening.
Just like it didn't. I was saying it wasn't gonna happen prior to the event. as much as people like really want it. Like, and if they did it, cool. Like, I'm not against them doing that. It's just not happening.
Yeah, I feel the same. So any form of fixes that's not in an update is considered a hot fix. So that's what falls outside of those. Those address critical bugs or potential risks. They've actually proven over the years that a number of things don't even require full, like a lot more things can be in hot fixes now. Like we had the Ishgard Restoration World Visit. They just kind of flipped the switch on that. I don't even believe the servers had to go down. So like they've gotten more and more impressive with what they can do technically over the course of multiple expansions.
I'd like to see more pieces of gear work with the current races. So like I have a cowboy hat that I can't wear on my Harath. That would be something I think would end up going much further. Thanks for the tier 1 sub, Irish, and the follow. So like hitting that follow, then hitting that sub, truly amazing. Thank you very much. Here's some bombs, mass bombs, celebrating. Why are they not going to do it? Because it's an insane ton amount of work. It's probably about 18 months to 2 years worth of development time on it, and we've already seen how deeply that cut into Shadowbringers. So,
You talked to Zepla. Is Zepla here? No, I don't think we're getting Mail Vieira.
The other side is like, oh, they had a Mail Vieira, piece of artwork they were considering back in Heaven's Word. It's like they eventually went with the Raw, but drawing a sketch on a piece of paper versus implementing that in game, having armor, gear sets, animations, and all that work go into it. Like these aren't light switches. These are like two years of people's life, and the bandwidth of it working on all the races, looking final on all the races going forward as well. I'm impressed they gave us new races at all.
I think honestly, you have to look at it like video games, much like music, much like TV, much like movies. It's very much an art, but it's powered by a business, right? You have to keep the lights on. And yes, you want to show up and do something you love, and hopefully that's not only limited to things that are considered arts. Hopefully people that are accountants and engineers and all that, they're proud of what they do and they feel like they make an impact, and hopefully they get a lot of joy from it, but that doesn't mean they want to do that and not collect a paycheck, and provide for their family and send their kids to college and retire and pay off a house and go on vacations and whatever else they want to spend their money on. And I think when you talk about new races, it's incredibly expensive. It's incredibly time intensive. And the question is, what does it add to players that are already actively and happily subscribed to the game? You can't be more subscribed to the game, right? You're subscribed. So like maybe they get a Fantasia out of you, but that's it. Like you're not gonna start paying 2 subscriptions if they get Vieira versus if they'd never added Vieira, you're only paying 1. You're not adding revenue. And so really the question in my mind is, does it bring people back to the game that quit? Or does it add new players? And so does it grow the player base? And if it doesn't do those things, it's just fan service. And I'm not saying there's not room for fan service, but as fan service goes, there's a lot cheaper fan service they can do than adding races. So that's why I think it ultimately just doesn't get done.
The only caveat that I would put into this is that from a foundational design level, let's say, this game's been in development, and then, not counting the ARR reboot, but it's like you look at it's been 11 years since announced this year alone. Lots of technology has happened. Lots of things like that has occurred. So could they go and add that in? It's like, I would fall into them like bringing in some new technology, some new things, but it would be a foundational level overhaul change that you could see that at some point. If they did a new engine, or if they did like a 14.2, like that's something that I could see them doing, because they can sit here and they can set it at the very core of the game and then build it outwards. And if they have the idea that they'll continue to add races, they would design their game, their art, like the animations, in a way that translates much easier, much faster. But to do it after the fact is a lot of work involved.
So back to the kind of conversation that we're all here kind of witnessing, but we don't speak Japanese. They are saying that just as examples of hotfixes, Save the Queen had an issue that was presented earlier where they talked about the upcoming hotfix to implement, and those are times when a project manager would reach out and try to get the schedule arranged. Any form of fix that requires urgent something, they have to go nudge a dev and say, hey, I need you to kind of fix this because we need to deploy this soon rather than waiting for the next patch cycle. And a lot of things pointed out by various project managers and Yoshida himself. Yoshida feels slightly guilty because his requests end up looking ridiculous to the programmers. So they're just going to keep talking about kind of hot fixes here and all of that.
I'm not getting that they're getting a new engine, Gem, but they either need a new engine or they're going to continue to have to try to go into the foundation of the game and fix it, which takes a lot of time. So at some point, the cost of doing so, the fact that they're deleting belts so they can give you more weapons and ring slots, says they either have to figure out that memory problem at the core of the engines and foundation of the game itself, or they have to come up with a different plan. And so I would venture to bet that if anything else, a lot of companies are watching PSO2 New Genesis to see if what they're doing ends up being a positive and, a move, because that's what I do. And if it is, then it's like, oh, okay, maybe we build a new chapter, new engine. Who knows? But no, who knows? They've already shown off their new engines at Square Enix, but that's not to say that those are going to be repurposed for this game. Yeah, I think belts being removed is a net positive.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see that they were being they're being removed because of memory limitations and being taken into giving us more weapons and ring slots. And Soro earlier asked, talking about how, do you think they're saving that additional 5 for additional job stones? And yeah, I could see them holding on to those 5 for later, saying, oh, let's go, we can add, that gives them some buffer room without having to try and decide what next piece of gear we need to delete so we can get more armory chest space. That, or at some point they'd have to.
I think job stones should just become a currency tab thing. Just get rid of them.
Well, and that's another thing you could do, because we've seen that happen.
You'd free all those up. I don't need to carry them around. It's not like I ever walk around with them unequipped.
Right, they're just a part of it.
They're just a part of me now. Lee, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. And I know with the race thing, it looks really easy, right? Because Vieira doesn't look like that much of a change compared to Roth, and so it's like, well, why can't you just do that again? The problem is that unlike other MMOs, we have other things, right? You have height sliders and facial structures and laughter and hairstyles and all of that stuff. So because of the depth of our glamour system, each individual change, if you think of this like an Excel spreadsheet, right? Every time you add a row, which we add with every tier of gear, every new hairstyle, every new emote, each time you add a row, then adding each column gets more expensive. And so at this point, we are so many rows deep in the number of things that can make each character unique, not just with that adding another column for either a gender or another race altogether. It just gets more and more and more expensive as this thing kind of scales out. And they want to continue adding rows, and then each row gets more expensive the more you add columns. So it's just a continually building thing. And that's why we have Roth and Vieira still missing hairstyles and headgear.
And Jem has the right of it, saying that they could essentially at some point pull the trigger and actually just remove the classes, because essentially you're also, from a memory perspective, you are a thaumaturge and you are a black mage. And so there's a little bit of a memory kind of aspect, because you have a different hotbar setup for your thom and your black mage. Those are treated separately by the system. So now, would that happen in 6? No, that's where, from a foundational restart of something that kind of makes sense. PSO2 New Genesis again.
Summoner Scholar is the big question there.
Yeah, Summoner
with
Scholar.
All the others, you could just delete it today, and hardly anybody would be affected.
Right.
But with Summoner Scholar, right, they share a childhood.
It's easier with all the jobs. From Heaven's Word forward, all jobs did not have a base class. So those are a little bit easier. So it would be interesting to see if they just said, all right, all the classes are now just the job, and we could, in theory, then you could actually get rid of the job stones, but then you have that as a part of the lore, and
Summoner Scholar is the problem. Everywhere else, I agree with you. Black Mage, Warrior, Paladin, all of that, you could just tell it as part of the story.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I know some of you are fading and going to sleep. I do want to stop and say thank you real quick to everybody that's given us all these tier 1 subs, all of the Prime subs, all of the gifts, all the bits. And then just everybody who's hit follow, hit the thumbs up over on YouTube, hung out, been chatting with us, or even just anybody that's lurking. You've done none of the above. We appreciate you guys being here. It's been amazing. So I know many of you are starting to fade as they get into slower and slower as we wind down. And this is areas where, like Brian and I sometimes get, watching these is where we get insight on how this stuff works. It's where we talk from, but it is a very slow way to consume information compared to the previous 6 hours. So I know as for many of you, depending on where you live in the world, it's gotten very, very late, almost to the point where it is very, very early. So I get that.
Oh yeah.
So I just wanted to stop and say thank you for any of you taking off.
When they made the change that they made this last expansion in 5.0 with the Summoner and the Scholar, like my hopes of them ever doing another class that goes to multiple jobs died, because it's like, yeah, that's definitely and the fact is they didn't. I mean, they changed them so much that they are technically they couldn't be further apart than they've ever been, but they're still got that kind of that hook into its core design. So we'll have to go from there. Also, guys, if you haven't seen the news, Chris is a full-time content creator, so he streams Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Central Time. So if you guys are up for hanging out and getting some more insight, he'll be doing that first thing Monday morning. And then so we appreciate you as being a part of the Lurk Force, or just popping in and saying hi from time to time. Yeah, we're burning that oil. Oh man.
So at this point, they're now starting to talk about from project management. Keep in mind, he did mention earlier, like project managers, they also have specific ones for each region. So this is something that's not only happening on a global level, but these patch cycles are happening over all of the regions. So it's a lot of coordination, considering it's only 75 to 85 working days. I think it's days total, so that's not even weekends. So it's pretty quick to kind of keep these patches going. That's why they get a lot in patch 5.4, but then the 0.1 and 0.5 kind of have to be ready to go because it happens pretty fast. And those are accumulated throughout the cycle. So 75 to 85 days is how long they have to do this. And so when you talk about things like the ultimate delay, they had to do their best to ensure that, it would not be delayed, but you're trying to also keep all of these other things moving. So at some point, you're starting to slow the whole train down because they're all waiting on what Ultimate's doing. Moving forward, they said the dev team is looking into ways to ensure that all development should be able to proceed smoothly, even when these situations occur. And so, as they look at this, they're talking about like, okay, what's the next major patch development cycle, and kind of what happens. In architecture, I don't know if there's a term used in development. Maybe you can enlighten me, Brian, but there's what's called critical path. And so, architecture is my background with my education. And critical path is the things that if they stall, it slows everything else down. And so sometimes there's things that don't really matter. When you're building a house, for example, the way we do modern construction here in the US, actually once a house is what's called dried in, where weather no longer affects it. It actually, the brick, while it looks like it's the structure on the outside, it isn't, and the house can be dried in without it. So the inside drywall and the outside brick, they can actually be going on simultaneously. The brick can come first, the drywall can come first. It doesn't matter. There are, however, steps where both of them have to be done. And so it's whichever one's falling behind becomes critical path, and the other one, it doesn't really matter. And so you're always trying to make sure that your critical path is protected, and if something else needs to spin off, unless it gets in the way at a later point. And so, I don't know if that's true of development as much, Brian, or if it's a little more linear.
Yeah, there's a critical path within development. And depending on whether you're working on agile or waterfall, those are just development methodologies in which that you gather the information, you make the plan, you assign the resources, because people go on vacation and they want, they have human needs. I'm working on it, Cry. I am sorry. Like it. This is just, it's been a long day. It's also a very emotional day. I'm very excited for Endwalker. I'm very excited to see what this journey that I've been on for like 10 years is coming to, and I'm really excited to see where that pays off. But I do apologize. My energy definitely is on the low end. If Chris and I can collab tomorrow after I get some sleep and whatnot, as Julie has given me the weekend to work on content, and there's lots of things that I'm excited to share. And this is just me after you
We're
know,
working on it.
5 kids and staying up till an hour that I haven't seen on the clock unless I was changing a diaper or something like that. So, oh.
So do note that the ordering of creation assets does not include the idea and planning, because those are done way before. Now, they've addressed in previous panels at things like FanFest, where they talk about having, when they actually lay out kind of the entire, all the milestones that are going to take place in expansion. This, what they're talking about right now is filling in all the actual details. It's really easy to say, like, oh, we're going to go here for vacation and then we're just going to have fun. And it's like, okay, but once we get there, like, which rental car agency are we getting it from? What's the exact address of the place we're staying? So like this is, now they're talking about more like, okay, as we drill this further and further down, how do I make sure that on this number of weeks that these things are going to be done, and where that breaks in, at what point do I check in on the Ishgarding restoration team? At what point do I check in on main scenario? At what point do I check in on Eden's Promise? And so they talk about kind of all of that stuff. This is going through like a Yoshi P check schedule here, so you can see how busy they really are. And that's why when they move to working from home, where like Square Enix is pretty tight about their security. So like, moving to working from home required a whole lot of shifts. That's why you can see there's really no room in his day to get this kind of stuff to allow for a shift to a pandemic. So yellow on this schedule means it's a content check. Green means that it's actually Final Fantasy XVI work. So you can see that's integrated into part of his day. And they don't even have labeled what he's working on, just that he's labeled on working. And then others are just other tasks that he does, such as his personal work and like the business development work, company oversight, and all that personal work. I assume that's all this other stuff that he has to do because he's a pretty big guy now.
Yeah.
So, he said there was an exception when he got rest, but it was years ago. So he really doesn't stop. He never stops.
Thanks, Miss B. Thank you. We love making it for you. I love this community. It's so awesome to be part of it for so long and seeing how far the game has come and hopefully where it can go. But
the chances of moon housing? Oh, I would put that pretty low. I think there's a higher chance of, in my opinion, there's a higher chance of housing in Davnarian or Garlemald. And those are probably still pretty low. If anything, I would expect another rebuilding. I think like Garlemald, the screenshot today looked like we could build it, but I doubt we'd be getting moon houses.
Moon's haunted. Moon restoration time.
It'd be cool though, but I doubt it. It'd be interesting to see if the farming content's well received. It'd be interesting to see if that grows into something where you have a place you can place housing stuff, because we're constantly with every patch adding all of these housing fixtures and everything and all this stuff, and we have design competitions and people come with all this beautiful stuff, and crafters are like, oh my gosh, I can make all these different components and glamour and housing and all that, and then it just has so little use. Glamour dressers are limited, the number of people with access to a house are limited, and so like I think some form of instanced housing in the game beyond just having a room in your free company, something where you can really place trees and you can place, the big Namatsu from the Namatsu Beast Tribe stuff, like somewhere that can take place, I think would be really nice.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't heard anything about like another limited job, being that we're going into 5.5, and the fact that they didn't talk about and touch on that at all makes me wonder if that got delayed alongside with Ultimate, and rather than announce it well in advance before it's ready, it just is so much easier to sit here and say, Beastmaster, here's the cool stuff. By the way, you can play it in 2 weeks or something like that. But
I read the last highlight message wrong. Oh, okay. Let me go back up. What do I think the chances that the moon houses? Oh, okay. I read moon housing. What do I think the chances that the moon houses Zodiark, like Dalmud housed Bahamut?
Yes.
Yes. There you go.
And yes. The Heinlein is the planet essentially represented. The moon is represented Zodiark. This is found throughout. I mean, all the lore, the poems, prophecies, and things of that nature. So, in fact, and then we've also seen the Ascians on the moon, like I guess communing with Zodiark or whatever. I'm excited that we're going there. I think that's going to be important. Hopefully there's Lunarians. Hopefully there's something going on with that moon. We'll have to wait and see though.
HP may ask for certain revisions to be made after checking content. Weren't they a little lenient with the collision for flying in 2.0 areas? So yeah, they're just going through examples here. This is stuff that just kind of helps us understand, like when they announce something in a slide during the first half of a live letter, and we ask like, why is it done like that? They don't always address it because that first half moves so quickly. So the second half of these is where we kind of get a little more understanding into like their thought process behind things, not necessarily when more announcements are revealed. Every once in a while in this second half, we feel like we learn something pretty groundbreaking, but usually these second halves are more just for context. Lunar whale hidden within the earth. Thanks for hanging out, Clink. A Sid rocket. Ooh. Eorzean boots on the moon, 2021. One small step for Roth. One giant leap for Rothkind. You looking forward to having your Roth set foot on the moon?
Yeah, absolutely I am. Immortal says, I think the raid Pandemonium takes place on the moon. Problem with that is assuming that we go with a raid tier of 6.0, 6.2, 6.4, and that story continues. 6.0 concludes the story, as I said, and 6.1 is like the start of a whole new thing. So at the core of it, like I would say Pandemonium, which could be, hell, could be some kind of afterlife thing that is kind of taking part aside in either another timeline or another whatever from the main scenario. Either way, I'm excited to see it.
The Garlands are going to have to keep up. They're going to have a Space Force.
Mm-hmm.
When a mount clips with a collision object that caused the mount to go out of boundary, Yoshida would find out, and then he'd point that out. And then they gotta go deal with it.
Where was Void Arc in the CGI trailer? I didn't see the Void Arc. There is some designs, like one of the dungeons has a very Void Arc style artistic feel, but I didn't see that in the trailer at all. You guys are great. I should watch the trailer when I'm not tired.
Thankfully, somebody like FS will go frame by frame for me and put it in a video, and I can just watch that. My next collaboration with FS is in 4 days, guys, on the 10th. He's going to be sitting back down with me during my stream like he did last time. For those of you that hung out, that became 2 videos over in Gaming Kinda. And we're going to be talking about lore. We're going to be talking about my journey through ARR and all that. And then he'll be with Brian and me on the 19th, where we will have a podcast, Casually Hardcore podcast, which will be handled just like the Mr. Happy one, where we'll record 3 sections that'll go up as 3 separate videos on Work to Game. But we'll be doing that live as well on the 19th. So if you guys want to hang out with us and get some lore, we're calling in one of the experts. So feel free to catch up with us on stream as that gets closer. The goal of stream is to be able to do things we can't do on YouTube. So these live collaborations and things like that is exciting. I do them every Thursday afternoon at noon to 2. I do them with Xandri. We run a Final Fantasy XIV dungeon followed by a World of Warcraft dungeon. So we're doing them in order. There's roughly 130 dungeons in both games. If in 14 you add trials. So we're running them sequentially. And last week we ran Todorok and Nomergan. And so it's just a good time. We hang out for 2 hours, back half a stream. It's a good time.
And someone's asking about the avatars over here on YouTube. Unfortunately, Stream Avatars only connects into Twitch. And that's where I hope that 2021 brings about YouTube expanding on their API and so much more. Chris, will you either drop a mass bomb or do a battle royale?
Did I get it right? There it is. Yep. We haven't done a battle royale in a while.
Let's see who's going to win.
YouTube streaming has come a long way since it was first introduced. It is still nowhere near as powerful as what Twitch can do. For as frustrating as we can be with platforms sometimes, just like when we have a complaint about Final Fantasy XIV, that doesn't mean that in total context that it's not still a phenomenal thing. So Final Fantasy XIV is a game that Brian and I love a great deal, but that doesn't mean there aren't flaws. And it's the same with Twitch and with YouTube. Like, both platforms have been immensely wonderful in their own way, but there are definitely times that I'm like, come on, guys, we can do better.
Yes. Oh man, Immortal says, Brian, are you are you ready for our level 90 Paladin res? Oh, that would be so satisfying to have a tank res. But oh yeah, I didn't have a summoner or a red mage in this dungeon. Turns out I am a paladin, and time to resurrect.
Craster, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. Live letter hype. Oh, last one standing. Battle Royale's almost over.
Who's gonna take it? Oh, who won? Shinriska? Congrats. Shinriska won the Battle Royale.
All right, so they're talking about localization now. The management would also require to work with localization teams, and that makes sure that they can ensure that words used are understandable enough for players to understand. And if he finds it hard to get a message across, then the localization team can kind of review that for him. So that's all part of it. I know that's a big thing with what deals with how much voice acting we have as well, is that you have to go through localization, you have to go through the different voice actors, and you have to go with, it may take longer to say things in one language than another. And you don't really want the cutscenes being drastically different depths or animations being longer on one versus another. So I know translation and localization are huge tasks when they go through this. So, and then QA has to concurrently go through that. So now they're talking about how many bugs have been found in game over time. So bugs are fixed as content is implemented and adjusted. By the time content is ready for the test build, the bug count is reduced to 100 bugs or less. It is amazing how much of this they do without a PTR or beta server. Absolutely incredible. Now we're going to drop a mass bomb. Did you miss anything big in the live letter? I'll go back over it after it ends officially. Once Brian takes off, I'll actually go back through the live letter, and we'll kind of loop back through. I'll also go through the 6.0 event one more time. So I'm probably going to stick around for 30 minutes to an hour after this whole thing wraps up, after Brian goes to bed, and go through everything we've learned, kind of say it out loud one more time. That way, if any of you that were here the whole time can make sure to fill in anything I miss or correct me if I phrase anything quite wrong. So I'll do my best to go through. I've got some notes here, and I'll blast through it and then answer any questions, because I know not all of you have hung out since I went live at 6:30 p.m. It's now 1:50 a.m. So I know not everybody's hung out that whole time. So I'll make one more pass. Brian and I will also do our best to address this in a number of videos, as I'm sure many other content creators will, this in the coming weeks. As we go through all of this, it's a lot to take in. Keep in mind, this is like the first and second fan fest is one go, so it's big. But thank you guys for hanging out. Those of you that are choosing to fall asleep to us, thank you for being part of the workforce. Some bugs were found, but if minor and doesn't affect the game in any major way and isn't critical, it usually is pushed into a later hotfix to be addressed. Fair enough.
Death Monkey messaged me. Apparently, there was a tier 3 sub that went off that we didn't say thanks.
I missed who it was. It didn't show up in our notifications.
Hawkster. So, okay. Hawkster, thanks so much for the tier 3 sub. Thanks, Death Monkey, for bringing that to my attention.
Yeah, I saw it mentioned earlier, and then I scrolled through it, and like the feed didn't ever catch it. So I don't know if it just came in at a time that too many people hit follow.
Sometimes that happens. Sometimes that happens with the feed. It's like, where was that notification? And it doesn't.
Never saw it. But thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you. Wow, that's insane. That's amazing. So I don't know if you're still here. Sure. And sorry we missed those messages.
I think that's probably why, like, the big streams, when you have something like a world first coverage, they turn off the follows, because I think it breaks the feed. We're not used to being big enough that that's a problem.
Yeah.
When One of you earlier asked me to turn on slow mo chat, and like I legit read that, and I was like, I don't even know how. So it hasn't been a problem. So now they're talking about kind of all the bugs and debugging would usually be resolved in about a month. When that happens, the project manager has to be aware of it and manage the developers to make sure it's resolved within that period. So far, this is all fairly typical project manager stuff. So I don't know if they're just explaining it in case, people are watching that haven't been exposed to that side of an industry. Yeah. I had to take classes on this in college. It was a dry subject to study. I also had to take a class on liability and scope, making sure you're not opening yourself up to lawsuits. It was an entire semester of that, which is just an invigorating subject. There are also bugs that don't occur during the staging and test build, but somehow occur once the patch is released. I assume that's also the fact that devs and testers are not nearly as numerous or as broad in the way they play as the entire player population. So those are the ones they somehow overlooked. So they're going to have some examples that they've gone over. Oh, Endwalker is a great title. It's a great title.
Thankfully, it doesn't have like letters S and B in it in particular order, so we didn't get a third SB.
There's not a single S or B in it. Not one. Brilliant.
Me gets bad grades in school. My parents removing belt. 14 memes. Love it.
Also, when there are issues where players cannot join due to server issues, those are counted as critical hotfixes and require immediate assistance. That makes sense. You're going to talk about a fast way to lose a client. Don't let them log into your software. It's like, well, then why am I paying for this? Everybody thought it was going to be Forspoken. I know that was on a lot of those bingo cards OCN tweeted out. It doesn't mean that like 6.1 won't be Forspoken. I mean, we will call it EW long term. It'll be called EW. So, like, it doesn't mean Forspoken won't get used. I think Forspoken was based on... Somebody said it was, like, trademarked or something. That doesn't mean it's not saved for a patch name. All right. Assume this is... What do you think this has got? 5 more minutes?
Who knows?
Who knows? Who can know? When the content of the update is finalized, a final check is conducted on all platforms. This includes a clean installation on each system with the updates to the latest patch. I wonder how they work with that with like PS5 and all of that. At what point do you have to start checking that against platforms that maybe aren't even pushed out? When we move to the 64-bit client of the Mac client. The master check is a period where no developers are to be involved in anything. And so it means stand by and wait for further orders. And then you only move if there are things to address. So they'll just keep kind of moving through this. Oh, Yoshi P is very much a machine. He gets it done. Absolutely incredible. So at this point, they're compiling all the game's assets, data, and source code into a build. That takes an entire night. The finished package and patch files can sometimes be quite large. Yes, I remember back in the day, I used to have to, like when I was a PS3 player with slow internet, patch days were really stressful because I would try to get off work a little bit early, even if I was in medical sales at the time. So I'd try to get back to the house early, like 3, 4 o'clock. And start the client upload and then do a bunch of like email and then go get dinner and all that. And then hope to God that my patch was done when I actually sat down to play later that night. So I can't imagine how big their files are internally.
So on YouTube, I'm showing the 1.0 image and the 6.0 image. So you can see some age. He's got a little gray in his hair. So it's kind of interesting. Much longer for Derplander.
If any errors were to occur, it's overnight crunch for people, for the people who worked on that particular segment. Oh, gotta hope your segment goes off without a hitch then.
Yeah.
He would say, sorry, but something weird occurred during mastering. Not to sweat profusely.
Man. Ugh.
I don't understand what this slide's telling me. Even if they need to sacrifice their personal time to get it resolved, yeah, we know that. We know the developers give up their personal time, absolutely. You want to see the model they are basing Derplander off of? All right, so now they're going to talk about installation testing.
Feel like it. It's 2 for me. Guys, if you're on YouTube, hit the pinned link and go raid Chris, so you can kind of hang out with him for the rest. I have to tap out Chris. I'm sorry. It's
no problem, man.
I'm hurting, and I want to be able to have energy and do content with you tomorrow. So,
okay,
guys, yeah, be sure to hit that. Please go raid him right now, and he'll continue reacting.
I'm gonna keep going. For any of you that missed any of this, I'm going to go back over starting at 6:30 p.m. everything that we've talked about today. Actually, the event started at 7:30 p.m. and I'm going to go back through everything one more time. So for anybody at the end of this, but I'm going to wait and make sure that there's nothing here that I need to tack onto that. So far, this has all just been context. It's just been kind of confirmation of how we think things work, little expansion on how we think things work. So far, it hasn't been anything. So now they're talking about the period of time it takes to write patch notes. This includes writing on game changes,